What's up, guys? It's Jordan with the Laundromat Resource Podcast. This is show number 69. I'll give you a second to pause the show, get it out of your system, because you got to join us right back because I'm pumped about today's episode because today we have an awesome guest. Waleed Cope is joining us, and I've only met Waleed once before this, and I was doing a webinar with Sense. And today, Waleed comes on and just drops an incredible amount of value. You're going to hear his story for sure, but there's just so many good tips and mindset tricks and just very practical business strategies. And it's crazy how much he packs into this episode. It's awesome. It's a long one, so I'm not going to take a whole lot up front because I really want you to get into this podcast, because the further on you go, the more value bombs he drops. He finds some kind of crazy rhythm. He's like in a trance, just dropping all kinds of stuff that's going to help you out with your business. So make sure you listen to the whole thing, and I'll catch you on the backside there. But man, one thing that we forgot to mention is that he has a podcast called the Commerce and Chill Podcast. I think he and his wife do it together, actually. Pretty cool. And I just really quick, go check that out for sure. Just so you know, it's got language in it. So just know that going into it. If that's something that bothers you, just skip this one. But if it doesn't bother you, go check out the Commerce and Chill Podcast. I think you're going to want to after this episode, and you hear all the crazy good knowledge he brings in this episode. So make sure you go check that out. I'll link to that. Everything else we talk about a lot of stuff. So there's going to be a bunch of links in the show notes, which is at laundromatresource.com/show69. Or if you're on YouTube, they'll be down below in the description. Make sure you check out all the different things that we link out to. And man, enjoy this episode with Waleed Cope. So good. It's so good. And I'm already excited about having him back on again. All right. Without further ado, actually with one more further ado, and then right after this, a little break that helps pay the bills, we'll jump into it with Waleed. All right, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Atmosphere TV. You may remember back in episode 34 when Atmosphere TV's Mike Kelly joined me on the podcast. It was an epic episode. If you haven't listened to it, Show 34, laundromatresource.com/show34. Go check it out. It's incredible. A ton of value there. One of the things we talked about is just the importance of creating a good, positive atmosphere in your laundromat. And I was just rereading the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. And one of the things that really stands out to me is that people don't make purchase decisions based on, the logic of, any decision that they're making to spend their money. It's more based on a feeling and an association. And so it's really important to create a positive feeling, a positive atmosphere, no pun intended, in your laundromat to help people associate this chore that most people don't like doing with something positive. Atmosphere TV is an incredible way to help improve the atmosphere of your laundromat. And basically, if you haven't heard of it, what it is it has 50 plus channels created specifically for businesses, with everything from sports clips, hilarious fail videos, dropping videos from all over the world. There's automobile channels. There's a ton of stuff. My kids love it, and my customers love it. Atmosphere TV could be a great way to either supplement your cable, or a lot of us laundromat owners are cutting our cable bill completely and running Atmosphere TV. They're designed to be used with no audio, but they also do have an audio option. That way you can kind of design the atmosphere of your laundromat the way that you want it. So get rid of cable, get rid of those news channels that are bringing negativity into your laundromat, and fill your laundromat with positive videos that bring positive vibes to your customers with Atmosphere TV. And if you use the code word, the keyword, the promo code, promo code resource, then they're going to waive your setup fee. And now everything is going to be free. There's no monthly fee for it. You can use it for free in your laundromat, and it's going to vibe to your atmosphere. So check out atmosphere.tv. I'll put a link down in the description on YouTube or in the show notes. Check it out there. Make sure you use the keyword resource. That way you can get that thing for free. Or if you'd like, email Mike at mike.kelly@atmosphere.tv. Waleed, thank you for coming on the show, man. How are you doing?
Things are well, Jordan. Thanks for having me. I couldn't wait. I'm honored to be here.
Hey, you know what? It's my honor to have you on. And, so you and I did a webinar with Sense together a few weeks ago. And just from that little bit of interaction, I was like, I have got to get Waleed on this podcast ASAP. So I think I sent you an email right after that thing, hey, come on the podcast. So, man, thank you for coming on. I'm really looking forward to it today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and super stoked. We had a great time doing the webinar with Alex and Ariana. And when you sent me the email, I was just like, this is going to be great just to carry on that energy and conversation we were already having a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I don't want to simultaneously excite you and depress you, but this probably is the pinnacle of your life right now, this moment. I'm just kidding.
I've totally accepted that and I acknowledge it.
I can tell this is going to be a good time. All right, good. Hey, Waleed, man, you have a crazy story and crazy experience in the laundry industry, and I want to hear all about that. But before we kind of jump into that, can you give us a little bit of background on you? Who are you? And then maybe work your way into how did you get into this weird business?
Yeah. So I don't know how to best categorize it. And Amanda probably gave the best bio I've ever had when we did the Sense webinar the other week. But my story is super simple. I'm just a kid born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Left for a little while when I went away to college, but always came back home. Since I was a kid, I've been always exposed to entrepreneurism, if that's even a word. If it's not, I'm totally claiming it in Webster now.
Yeah, man.
My mom's is a public school teacher for up 10,000 years. She retired from there, but she had a side business on the side, like beautician and makeup she would sell and do. My dad was full-fledged 100% entrepreneur. So he had different businesses. He had a grocery store, meat market, local in our neighborhood, was into real estate. We did a little bit. So I was always exposed to it. And as a kid, I was always out there doing stuff like popping popcorn in the house, putting it in bags, putting a table out in front of the house in the yard and putting signs out and making lemonade and Kool-Aid and selling it. And it just always carried on throughout my life. And later on, I did real estate. So I was a real estate agent for numerous years. Then somehow transitioned into a public school teacher. But I did real estate after. And it kind of started because as a public school teacher, we know how the school systems are in different places. And it was underfunded. And I was like, how can I get more revenue to do things with my class? So I started selling real estate because I was like, if I sell a building, I get this much commission and this much time. So I was like, cool. So was able to buy computers to put in the classroom and things like that. So the entrepreneurial bug has always been in me, consumed me, and just did it throughout my life. And I got exposed to the laundry business because my dad ended up moving the store to a new location. And when he acquired the building, there was a barbershop and a laundromat in the back of the building. So they put the supermarket in the front. They were like, well, we'll just leave the laundromat there. The barber left. And I wasn't trying to cut people's hair. So that was not an option for any of us. I was like, I'm not cutting hair. I don't know jack about it. But my dad and my uncles decided to leave the laundromat and they took it over. And, as a kid, I grew up running around the supermarket, dumping quarters in the laundromat, mopping floors, cleaning out, the slop sink, going underneath machines and cleaning out dump valves, all that crazy stuff. So, I just grew up in the business over time and that's how I got introduced to it. And I've been doing it, I would say maybe 15, 20 years off and on with my dad the whole time. And then recently, I'd say in 2015, we made him an offer to buy him out. And then we just kept building from there till we are, present day in 2021.
Yeah. So, I got to ask you this question, honestly. Do you regret going the laundry route and not the barber route? Because there are a lot of like super cool barbershops now. Like, I don't know what happened, but like recently barbershops got like really cool, not just like your Supercuts or your neighborhood, you know, with the pole, with the thing, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
well, but now be careful when you say pole. Be careful now.
Yeah. Barber pole.
Exactly.
But man, now there's like these like super cool and it's like super trendy to be a barber, and that could have been you, but you're in the laundry business now. So I'm just wondering if there's any regret there.
Yeah. So they are cool, but I've seen some really cool laundromats now lately.
You're right.
Like Ariana's. There's a couple here in Brooklyn I've read about and seen like online. I haven't seen them. So I'm going to say I think I don't regret going the barber route right now.
Okay.
And then from a business perspective, you know, as we, you know, laugh about that, I'm always interested in businesses, one, that are not sexy. And I have some, you know, my wife is my partner in some other businesses, and we laugh. Every business we've been in, it's always classified as unsexy. So I don't know if it's just something that attracts it. And laundry falls in that category of, you know, it's not this sexy business. I think it's getting more attention and glory now than it did in the past, for numerous reasons. But I think I'm good with the laundromat choice over the barbershop.
All right. I
don't think you want me cutting your hair.
You know what? I do want you cutting my hair, even though you're in the laundry. So next time I come out to New York, I'm going to have you cut my hair.
I'm going to use a Flowbee, if you know what that is.
Yeah, with the vacuum. Yes. I'm in.
Awesome.
No, but I think just quick side note on my other side note on your side note. I love the, you know, being interested in businesses that aren't sexy. Number one, that gives you more room to be the sexy one, right? You don't have to have the business be. It's just all on you. You can be the sexy one. But in all honesty, I mean, I think, you know, and you know, there's a little bit of what is that called when you just, you know, your surroundings are kind of dictating your, you know, your thought process. But a lot of people that I know that are the wealthiest people I know are people who own businesses that aren't sexy. Right. And the sexy businesses typically are low margin, high competition, but your laundromat, your rubber factory, your, you know, manufacturing metal shop, your, you know, those kinds of businesses aren't sexy businesses, but, you know, they tend to be pretty profitable a lot of times. So, I mean, I think you're onto something there. And I think that is what kind of keeps laundromats as a little bit of a secret. And like you said, it's less so than it was, but still a little bit of a secret.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I love watching business documentaries. And I can't remember the name of it, saved my life, but I remember watching this one when we talk about unsexy businesses, and they were talking about Tyco, which is the, like they were in like the alarm and fires in the safety arena. And I think it was a CEO at the time when they did the documentary, and he talked about how they ended up getting into it. And he was like, it was totally unsexy. And he used the sprinkler heads as one of his examples. He was like, this thing costs X. We sell it for this. It's not a whole lot of competition, and, you know, and it's unsexy. Nobody really pays attention. He was like, and these are the margins we make off it, and this is what we do. And I was just like, it totally made sense to his approach and how he explained it. He's like, we just look at it's unsexy, but this is our approach and this is who we deal with. We're like kind of under the radar. Like, people aren't trying to always jump into it because it's the latest trend or fad in business. And, you know, they made a lot of money, a lot. But yeah. Give me the unsexy businesses. Let's do it.
That's right. And yeah, well, if I can find that documentary, I'll link it in the show notes. So if anybody's interested, I'll link it. If I can find it, I'll do a little digging on it.
I'll look around, but it was a long time ago.
Oh, that's all right. You can find anything on the internet these days.
That is
all right. So let's go back to your story here. Now that I've thoroughly derailed us, let's go back to your story. And okay, so tell me what it was like. So it sounds like your dad, his main business was grocery stores. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had, he started with my uncle. It's this crazy story. And I can't remember how many years ago, but when I tell you the dollar amount, it'll give you a date range. One of my uncles got hurt at work, and they gave him some kind of, I don't know if it was a settlement or they just gave him some like workers' comp, but they gave him $1,000. And like everybody was like, holy smokes, you got $1,000. Like, and they took it and they were like, we should go into business. And they opened up a small little meat market. And all they did was focus on fresh meats in the neighborhood. So they would go to the butcher or the slaughterhouse, whatever it's called, early in the morning, get good cuts, bring it back to the shop, and then have everything in a showcase. And people would come in. And then they started putting like fresh produce in there. And then over time, like people were, oh, you should have this, you should have that. And then they moved to the store where the laundry and the barbershop was. And then they went full fledged. They started putting, juices and beverages and canned goods. So he focused on that and did real estate also. And then the laundromat, which was behind it for many, many years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, I mean, what was it like, being a kid with an entrepreneur dad and a school teacher mom and who was also a little bit of an entrepreneur kind of on the side there. And I'm curious if looking back on that now, if you see any lessons learned or mindsets that they gave you advertently or inadvertently that kind of have led you to where you're at today.
Yeah. So, I must say, like my mom was super like open to whatever, like what you want to do. There was no pressure for me to become an entrepreneur, which I think was the biggest thing, because whatever the stats are, it's huge. Well, I should say it's low. It's not huge. When businesses get transferred from one generation to another, the stats are ridiculously low for small businesses.
Right.
And we're fortunate to be in a couple of our businesses. One, we're third generation that we're running it. And then the other business, we're second generation. So the odds, it's just like Hunger Games, may the odds be in your favor. Like the odds were totally against us.
It feels like that sometimes too. Yeah.
Every freaking day. Last Thursday was the Hunger Games for me. But one lesson I would say, and I think this is something that applies to all of us, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you have children, and whatever your thoughts or view into them going or potentially going in and taking over the business is, they left it open for me. There was never any pressure that said, Waleed, you have to be the next generation. And I think that was the great thing that left me to be free, go to the business, dibble and dabble, leave. And let's make no mistakes. Like I worked in the businesses with my dad full time a couple times for a couple years. And I was just like, yeah, this, like, we're the same, but we're like, totally different in some aspects of business. Like my dad is very comfortable. Like the business is this size and we're doing this and we employ this many team members. And I'm the total opposite. I'm just like, we need to get bigger. We should have more people. Like he's like, no, let's stay small. Like, no, we don't want to get bigger. And I get it. He comes from a different age and it was a different time back then. And dealing with different agencies and regulations, it was a totally different time then than it is now. And then technology isn't today what it was back then. Like, there was hardly any technology. Like you had a calculator back then. You were like, whoa, like they had watches with the calculator watch and they were like, holy smokes. But, it was, I would say the lesson is that it was an open framework and it was an open environment for me to experiment and learn and play. It was a huge sandbox for me. And I caught crap, because there were days like I would come in and be like, yeah, whatever. I would eat stuff off the shelf in the supermarket. My dad would be like, you're eating the profits. And I was like, whatever, Dad, you'll make more money. Don't worry about it. And then, later on, I understood what the, profits were and I stopped eating stuff off the shelf.
That's a good literal example and metaphorical example right there.
Exactly. Yes. So, yeah. I guess to go back to your question, is the lesson was, things were open to learn and to get a feel for it. I would say that was the biggest takeaway. And I tried to have that same mindset and practice with our team members. Like I do not micromanage anyone on our team. And if I have to micromanage them, forget it. I got a million things to do. I don't have time to micromanage anybody in any of our businesses. And that's how kind of what I grew up in with my parents in the business. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that too. I'm sure, there's a ton of stories out there where businesses were thrusted on kids who had no interest in running those businesses, nor the skill set to run those businesses. Right. And I think that's equally important, even if they had the desire, a lot of times, you see this with, wealth transfer too. A lot of times, the struggle that, produce the lessons and the wisdom to be able to run a business of whatever size the business is, the kids didn't have to go through that struggle. And so they didn't learn the same lessons. And, and so if they don't have the same lessons or the same skill sets, the business is, it's on thin ice and easily broken. So
it's almost like they take it for granted because it was just handed to them.
Yeah.
And they really don't understand, some of what went in to build it to that level. And like, I joke about it with Jess and I'm like, listen, our children, ever want to get in the business, I'm so going to figure out like, how do we carve out like a division or a department? I'm going to be like, just go run it. Like, go do this. And I'm like, if it crashes and burns, like it won't kill the company. We'll just lose X revenue or whatever the case might be. But it'd be something for them to learn and say, like, when I do this, this is how it affects the business. It goes up or down. Mm-hmm. And if I don't do this because I want to sit home and be lazy or whatever the case might be, then I see how this affects it. But if I go in and put in the work, then I see the results from my labor, my efforts, I should say. So, yeah. I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah, I like that idea too, because, it's easy to have that mindset, I can eat off the shelf because you just make more money later, right? Like
I ate a lot of cupcakes off the shelf. A lot.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay. So talk me through. So you finished up, with school or whatever, and then you went into real estate first. Is that how?
No. So when I graduated college, I went to school down in, Baltimore, Maryland. So shout out to all my alumni at Coppin University in Baltimore City.
All right.
And Baltimore City.
A lot of listeners from there. A lot. We have so many. Yeah.
If you've ever seen the movie on HBO, The Wire, when I went to school in Baltimore, it was The Wire. Okay. Let's be absolutely clear. And my school, it sits on the main street called North Avenue. So in campus, it's like, oh, it's nice and beautiful. And like you're walking. And then as soon as you leave campus and you hit North Avenue, I was like, oh, I'm back in New York. Like there's a drug deal going down over here. There's a shooting going on over here. I was like, oh, I'm home.
Feel good. Yeah.
I've been a run. Like I've seen some crazy stuff. But I love Baltimore. So I went to school there. I stayed there for, I say maybe like 2 years after I graduated. Had a job, got laid off, then couldn't find another job. Everybody I went to was like, you're overqualified. And I was like, how am I overqualified? But that's a whole nother story. And then I came back. What I would do in the beginning is I would drive home on the weekend and work a couple days with my dad and make some money so I could pay rent, eat, and everything in Baltimore. And then I get back in the car and drive back to Baltimore, stay there for like 3-4 days. And I did that for maybe a half a year. Give or take. I just kept going back and forwards. And then finally, I just reached the limit. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to move back to New York. Threw everything in a U-Haul in the middle of the night and just drove back home. And then I started working with my dad. Did that for a while. At that point, we had 2 stores we had open, and then we were working on our 3rd store. And whatever story I tell you would be a lie because I don't remember. It just got to some point, and I was like, you know what? I need a break from working in a family business. Sat at home for a while and was just like, I don't know what my next move is going to be. My mother calls up one of her friends and she's like, yeah, we're looking for some teachers at our school. And she's like, you should be a teacher. And I'm just like, teach? Like, I don't know nothing about teaching kids. They told me to come in. I had an interview and like a week later, I'm a teacher. I'm like, holy smokes. And like, I'm teaching 4th graders. And Jordan, I did it for, I think, either 7 or 8 years.
Oh, wow.
I ended up starting real estate while I was teaching because I wanted to get more supplies and equipment and computers, et cetera, from my class.
Pretty cool,
classroom,
by the way.
Yeah. Our classroom, not to boast, was pretty freaking gangster. And we took trips like we would take a trip every year to a farm in Vermont. It was awesome. And the kids would get to run the farm for the whole week. Like they did chores. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to the zoo, look, pet the cow. No, like they were milking cows, like taking the cattle out to graze, cleaning out stalls. They ran this farm for a week.
That's cool.
And one of the things the farm produced was not only milk, but maple syrup. So they had to go tap the trees and they got to go see how the syrup was. So they were totally hands-on for a week. It was an awesome trip we did every year.
There's got to be a business lesson in there too. That farmer's a genius. Get a bunch of kids to come in and run his farm for him.
And it's totally, it's like this non-for-profit thing, and it's called Farms for Kids. I don't know if they still do it, but it's an awesome program. Yeah. I think we participated, I want to say maybe 3 years in a row. But it was a great program. But I got into real estate while I was teaching, did that. And I have to say, teaching, besides being an entrepreneur, teaching is the most fun I've ever had working. To sit in a classroom in New York, it's a little crazy. I'm not sure how it's out in California. They're like 28 to 32 kids in a classroom.
Yeah.
It's crowded.
Yeah.
But to see when you're teaching and a light bulb comes on in their head and they're like just all into it, it was awesome. We had a lot of good times. There's still some of my students who I'm connected to on social, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And I see them now and I'm just like, I'm old. Like, I'm old.
It's weird how that happens so fast, man.
I'm just like, damn, time flies. But you know, it was an awesome experience. I learned a lot from it. And it's interesting, people, and it's kind of sad too, because teaching it's very entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, because when you're in that classroom and the door closes, it's just you and the children in that room. And it's on the teacher 100% to get them from the beginning of the school year to the end with the knowledge that they need to absorb and learn over that time period. And people get hung up on, you know, I get it, school systems, the districts or whatever they're called these days. And they say, listen, I want my child to go to a good school. I get it. And I agree 100%. But what I agree with 120% is the teacher is the most important factor. I taught in some really jacked up schools. And when my class came in and we closed the door, all that stuff was outside the room. And that the world we were in that classroom was totally different, and we transformed it. And they got to forget all that other stuff. And then school's over, you know, we had to deal with that. But it's the teacher. I've seen some really great teachers in some really bad environments, and their students just excelled. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so the entrepreneurial part I think is huge for someone who's a teacher. And I think it's really overlooked. Teachers are hugely resourceful. Like I've seen teachers make lesson plans and come up with curriculums out of like popsicle sticks and like needle and thread and some popcorn. And they created some math lesson out of it. And I was like, wow, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, I know. Well, and I think they have to be, because like you said, they just don't have they don't have funding to get resources, right? So they just got to get creative. It's like a kid with no toys, right? You just find some sticks and rocks and make up a game or something.
Exactly.
You know, you got to get resourceful and creative that way. So yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%. Okay. So you were teaching, you started doing some real estate to, you know, deck out your classroom and provide some cool opportunities for your kids, which is really awesome. Good on you. Okay. So then how did you transition out of teaching and where did you go from there?
So my last year, I did this thing called looping. Mm-hmm. So I always taught fourth grade, but my last class, the principal approached me to loop with them. And basically our school ended at fifth grade. So they would graduate in fifth grade and then they would go to junior high school. Mm-hmm. So the teacher said, you should loop with your class and teach them fifth grade. And I was like, fifth grade, I got to learn a whole new curriculum. No way. I got to do new lesson plans. Like, nah, I don't know if I want to do that. But I thought about it and then, you know, talked with some of the children in my class. And it was like, it would be cool, Mr. Cope, if you went to fifth grade and then we graduate. So I was like, all right, freak it, I'll do it. So I went to fifth grade with them. Same group, maybe one or two, maybe 3 or 4 other children entered our class as we went to 5th grade, but majority of the class was my 4th grade class. So we hit the ground running day one because it was no more like, oh, you got to get adjusted. Hi, I'm Mr. Cope. Who are you? Like we hit day one, we were running. Yeah. Which was pretty awesome because and I knew what their weaknesses and strengths were. So we took off day one. That year, I can't remember what the tipping point was, but something happened, Jordan. And I was like, they don't care about the children. And I think I just reached a point where I was like, I'm tired of being in the system and we're not changing the system to benefit the children. I had principals come in. We had this thing you had to do every morning. I forget what it was called, but it was like a read aloud or some kind of reading activity you had to do every morning. And they were like, oh, you have to read from these books and whatever. I don't even want to talk about, but they bought these textbooks from whoever in these workbooks and you had to read from them. And I'm no conspiracy theorist and all that, but I'm just like, it's money and it's politics. Mm-hmm. It's plain and simple. So I was like, I'm going to read from this textbook. I get it. But I was like, why aren't we exposing them to what's going on in the real everyday world? I was like, when they walk out of school, like they're exposed to it at home on the news, et cetera, et cetera. So what we would do for our read aloud or whatever it was called, we would read the newspaper every morning. We would read the business section, right? So we would read the newspaper, and the principal walked in and was like, why are you doing that? I was like, we're reading. Like I'm following the guidelines to a certain extent, but we're just using the newspaper. I'm doing everything else the same. The 1 hour, et cetera, et cetera. The children are participating. We're doing activities around the reading activity. Literally, the principal took me out the classroom in front of my class, had somebody else watch my class. So clearly this was all prepared ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Walked me down the hall to somebody else's classroom and was like, look at how they're doing it. That's how you need to do it. I looked at her and I was like, okay. Went back down the hall, went back in the room, closed the door, and I pulled the newspaper back out. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't to be defiant to her. She had no idea what was going on in my classroom. She had no idea what the needs were of my students. She had no idea of what the conversation I had with the parents. She didn't know what their weaknesses are, what they were craving, what interests them. We had the flexibility to substitute certain topics in our lesson plan because as a 4th grade teacher, I had to teach everything. So I had to know math, science. I had to teach every topic. Did I have to teach science? I think they went to another teacher before I take that back. Science and computer, they went to another teacher, but I had to teach everything else, reading, writing, etc. So I would substitute some of the subjects out. And one subject I switched out was economics. I brought all these children economics books so they can understand how money works at a young age. Jordan, I had my class enrolled in a stock trading program that I can't remember if it was New York City or New York State, where they actually had accounts, but they were they were real accounts linked to the markets, but they didn't transact real money. Right, so you could set them up with like a play amount of money. And they would sit there and I would have them do research like, okay, first start with the products in your house so you can understand. And they would read the labels and like, oh, this is Procter & Gamble, this is Unilever, et cetera, et cetera. So start with the things you consume every day and understand what a stock is, how you have ownership in a company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know how much smack I caught from the school system? It's like, why are you teaching them that? And I did it. And I think that became the turning point. Mm-hmm. So something clicked in me at graduation, just before graduation, and we're in the auditorium. The teachers all have to give a speech to the classes are all in the auditorium. And I prepared a speech and then I just closed it. And I said every one of my children's name and told them how I had a great year with them. And I told them when they graduated, I'm leaving with you. And you could hear a rat piss on cotton in that auditorium. And when they walked out the door, I walked out the door right with them. And I didn't, the new principal came in and was like, oh, you should stay. It's going to be a whole different system when you come. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard it before. Mm-hmm. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but something just broke. It snapped. And I was like, it wasn't about the children 100%. And as an entrepreneur, I always believe, like I get super frustrated when things are broken and we don't look at what the root cause is and fix it. And I'm like, this thing were going on in school. I was like, we could easily fix it. It's this. Like, we pinpointed the problem. Let's go out there and fix it. And they would just, the principal or assistant principal would be like, yeah, well, and I'm just like, no, I don't know. So then I transitioned from that and I started doing real estate full time.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I get a lot of those frustration. My wife's a teacher also. And,
so
we're always talking about, God, it's like pulling your hair out, right? Like, this is so frustrating. It's like maddening how everything's set up. And, I think New York, California, like, red tape galore and bureaucracy galore and politics galore and lawsuits galore. I mean, it's craziness, man. My wife's special ed teacher, so she's always in the lawsuits and stuff. But
yeah, I got pulled into one of those one time too.
Yeah, I know. All right, so now you're doing real estate, and then at what point did you decide? Okay, I think I need to go back to that laundromat idea that was behind the grocery store and get back into that.
Like, everybody, I hear people tell their stories and watch these documentaries or autobiographies, and somebody always has this pinnacle moment. They're like, this happened and I did this. And like, I think that's total crap. Like, I think there are a few people, like, things happen in your life and you totally remember it. And if I sat here and told you something, I'd just totally be making it up.
Yeah.
I can't say specifically. I don't know. Like, I might have had I don't think I went back to the laundromat when I did real estate. I think I might have, my dad and I would be talking, like I would stop by the store, we hang out and I'd be like, hey, you should try this and blah, blah, blah. But I think it really didn't turn until somewhere around maybe 2014, 2015, where some friends and people in the neighborhood called me because our business is right in the neighborhood where I grew up. Like, I grew up 1 block away from the business. So I would leave the house and walk down the street and go right to the business, hang out and turn around and walk right back. Like, my mom would stand in the yard and watch me walk down the block. And my grandfather lived in the middle of the block between my mother's house and where my dad's business is. So literally I passed everybody, and everybody in the community knew me because they would shop in the store or go to the laundromat. They'd be like, hey, Waleed. They would call me Pal because nobody would pronounce my name right. So they just be like, Pal. When I was a little kid, it was really weird. Kind of funny. Yeah, I would just walk down there. But I got calls from some family members and people in the neighborhood, and they were just like, you need to go down to the store and talk to your dad. So my dad is probably the ultimate micromanager. Like, if you worked for my dad, Jordan, your head would be all gray. Let me be absolutely clear. And you would be totally stressed because he would be on you like, Jordan, did you fold the clothes? Like, why is it taking you like an hour to fold 20 pounds of clothes? What are you doing down there? Like, he had cameras everywhere. He would be on top of everything. And I was like, Dad, you're stressing people. He's like, no, we have to be on top of everything. Well, you got to know where every penny is. You got to know how many times the machines are turning. That attendant is folding an 80-pound order. They should get that done in this amount of time. And he would just watch like a hawk. But it's great from a business perspective to have all that data and know what's going on in your business. Right. But it's really not good for your team members when you're stressing them like that. So people would quit a lot on my dad, a lot. I can remember one story when we had 2 stores at this time. Everybody at our biggest store, and this store was probably 45 feet wide and about 80 feet deep. And it was huge. And everybody in the store quit. And he was like, oh, we don't need them, Waleed. My dad had some kind of Jedi mind trick. I think he hung out with Steve Jobs at some point. That distorting reality effect on you. He'd be like, we don't need them, Waleed. We could do this all ourselves. And I'd be like, yes, Dad, we could do it. Fire them all. Who cares? And then he was like, you're going to run the store. And I'm like, cool. I got it, Dad. Don't worry about it. I'm here for you. I did it for a year, Jordan. I ran a store 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day for a year. And I was like, okay, Dad, I think we need to hire somebody. Yeah. I've reached my limit.
We can't do it by ourselves.
Right? I was like, I'm done. I'm dozing off, standing up. I can't do it anymore. And I'm doing drop-offs too. Like, that's the other part of it. Gosh. So like, when you got to clean a store at night and you look down and it's like 40 plus machines and you're wiping them and you just look down the row and you're like, this is unending. Yeah. So I'd say it's like 2014, late 2014, early 2015. I'd say early 2015, mid 2015, I started getting phone calls. So I went, and my dad was there every day working because he only had a few employees because people kept quitting. And I would stop by and say, hey, what's up? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I could see it was taking a toll on him, like physically and mentally. He was totally drained. Customers would complain like their drop-offs are late. So he had some team members there, and then he's doing the rest himself. And I'm like, Dad, like, you can't keep doing this. So I told him, like, we want to, Jess and I talked to him, was like, we want to do a deal. Let's buy you out. And I was surprised. He was just like, okay, let's talk about it. And my dad is typically, he typically is the opposite. he was tired. He was really tired. And then we came to an agreement. We closed the store for 30 days. In the 30 days, we made some changes in the store, but physically the store was pretty much the same. And it was a challenge. The store had equipment that was like 20 years old plus, totally inefficient, used a lot of water, a lot of electricity, a lot of gas. So utilities were through the roof. We opened back up in 30 days. So, we spruced up the store. We made some changes, hired a whole new team. All Jess and I friends call it the honeymoon laundromat because the story goes, Jess and I got married in 2015. We got married on a Friday. So we had the wedding at a hotel in the city. That Saturday, the store was slated for the grand reopening. Oh my! And planned this? No, Sunday. I'm sorry. Sunday was the grand reopening.
Oh, you had a day. Saturday. You're fine. Yeah.
Saturday, we had to train all the new team members we had just hired. So we have the wedding Friday night. We're like partying to 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. A couple people crash at the hotel. We all have brunch together the next morning. They're like, oh, let's do this. And we're like, nah, I got to go to the store at 1 o'clock. Jess was like, yeah, we're out of here. And they're like, wait a minute, what about the honeymoon? I'm like, work. So then we run to the store. We train everybody. We open up Sunday. So, don't tell Jess. I hope she doesn't watch this episode. We've yet to have a honeymoon and we got married in 2015.
Listen, I've got to meet this woman who went to the laundromat on her honeymoon.
Yeah. Like we were in there. Like her friends are like, that's the honeymoon laundromat. And then that started it. And, to fast forward, we were doing that. We were doing drop off. We didn't do delivery. So we were only walk-in drop-off. Mm-hmm. And vividly to this day, as we talked about on the webinar, my dad was so hell-bent on, if you ever remember or you ever seen like in New York, the old Chinese restaurants where they have the plexiglass windows and they hand you the food through it.
Right.
He had that built in the store back in the day because he was like, yeah, safety. You can't have the money. I was like, Dad, this is crazy. Yeah. But I was in the booth. Thank God he had glass and not plexiglass. So it wasn't all scratched up and foggy looking like the Chinese restaurants. And I vividly remember standing in the booth and I was just looking and watching drop-off customers come in and bumping into people doing self-service and attendants trying to take care of them and fix machines or help customers load and unload. And I was like, we're serving two totally different demographics. And our store was small. We had 27 washers and 28 dryers. So really we have 14 dryers because they were pocket dryers. So we had 28 stacks. So we had 28 altogether. And the store was it was an L-shaped store. And I'm probably guessing this is bad. I don't know the data. But the store is probably 20, the actual store itself, walk space was probably 25 feet wide and maybe 70 feet long. So we had maybe 1,700 square feet in the store, give or take 1,800. Mm-hmm. So we had a small store. But the typical store in New York is kind of small because it's washers on one side, dryers on the other side. It's that straight walk-through model. Yeah, exactly. The bowling alley. That's it. But ours was like a bowling alley with a little L in the back where we squeezed some more washers because that's where the barbershop was. So we did that. And I was standing there and just looking. I was like, it's two different personas that we serve here. And I was like, I'm doing them a disservice. So we ended up one of our clients who would bring clothes for us to wash and fold for them had a seamstress shop across the street. She would come in complaining. She's like, I'm leaving. The landlord's raising the rent. And I had been in her shop before and it was small, but I was like, I could do something with this place. And she left. I saw the broker putting the sign up, I rent. I called Jess. I was like, Jess, the store across the street is going up for rent. I think we should move the drop off across the street. She's like, go across the street right now, find out how much they want and get that store. And I was like, yes, ma'am. So like I tell a broker, like in
second honeymoon coming right up.
There you go. Like you gotta love it. I kind of knew the landlord because his dad had a business there. And as kids, we all went in there. He had like a little burger joint and like video games. So I kind of knew him. Talked to him through the broker and was like, come on, let's do a deal. Like, oh, we're interested in the space. So we inked the deal in probably less than a month, give or take. So we separated the drop off. But where it really started going a little crazy for us is delivery. I had no interest in doing delivery at all. Jordan, I hated delivery. I was like, I don't want to deal with logistics, the drivers and this and that. Like I had painted this whole picture in my head of, what it was and probably made it worse in my head than what it really is in real life. And as I said before, it was this mature elder lady who would come in the store all the time to do her laundromat. And I can picture her face right now as if it was yesterday. And she was like, you should do pickup and delivery. And I was like, nah, I don't want to. She was like, if you did, I would use you all the time. And I'm like, nah. And maybe I don't know, the 8th or 9th time. And it was late at night. She said it in the store and I snapped. And I was like, okay, I'll do delivery. All right. I went home that night. I hacked together some delivery platform on our website, an order form, and I got some APIs and played with a little bit of code and then found this app where you can link and the drivers would get notification to go to people's houses. Linked it all up in like, I don't know, a day or two. And I was like, we're in the delivery business. And I posted it. And then all of a sudden, bing, an order came in. I was like, holy smokes, like this might be something. Then the manager at that time, I was like, you're doing deliveries until we get enough and I'm going to do them. So I did them for a year. Then he started doing some because he came on later on. So the two of us did it for a while. Mm-hmm. And then we realized like our drop off started, literally we would have team meetings and I would write it on some, chart paper from my school days. I had a bunch of chart paper in my house and I would write out the numbers every meeting on the chart paper. And we started looking, we're like, we're doubling drop offs, the amount we're doing every month. And I was like, there's something to this delivery thing because we're able to expand our reach without having to open up more stores. Mm-hmm. And logistically, we at the height, we were up to 3 stores when I was with my dad. And logistically, it was kind of challenging. Like when you talk to Dave, my hat's off to Dave. He's got 5 locations, but he's got a great team. It makes it's super easy. And you've got 2 stores, right, Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can only imagine like, the things that go on, managing 2 stores and the headaches that come along with it. But I was like, we can increase our reach without actually having to have more physical locations. So we had to shop across the street and we made that only for walk-in drop-off. So now the customers in our self-store store were ecstatic because they had the store to themselves for a little while. And then they got mad at me because drop-off started doubling. So we started using more machines in the store. Uh-huh. So they got super pissed because we were using half the store, 3/4 of the day to process orders. Then I went 24 hours, but not for customers. Well, actually, before I went 24 hours, we actually started closing the slowest days of the week for self-service customers. So those days we would try and knock out as many drop-offs as we can. Like we would have orders for like a week in advance. People would be like, oh, I don't want it back tonight. I was like, do them all. Our basement was probably, I don't know, 40 feet high. And I think I lost you, Jordan.
I can still hear you.
You just can't see me, huh?
Yeah, I just can't see you.
How about now?
Now I can see
I'm going to switch cameras. I think when the cameras went down.
Camera change. Love it.
There you go. Put that in the edit. Right. We had the ceiling in our basement was probably like, I don't know, 20, 25 feet high. We would have drop off stacked up to the ceiling, give or take. It was ridiculously high. But we closed the store a couple of days out of the week and we would do drop offs. Customers complained a little bit. And then we figured we would go 24 hours just for our staff. Mm-hmm. So at night, we had a crew that would come in and just process orders on the overnight. So we didn't use a lot of machines during the day. That went well for a while. And then after a while, we got away from self-service totally. We ended up closing the store and just doing drop off and pick up and delivery 100%. And that's where we ended up evolving today. So we don't have our self-service store anymore. So the lease went a little crazy with me. So that's a whole nother conversation on lease negotiations, which I've seen in some of your other episodes. And the funny part is my dad was my landlord. So that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other dynamic in the lease negotiation for sure.
So I was just like, yeah, like I can't do that in the lease. And he was like, no, it has to be this. And I was just like, guess we won't have a self-service anymore. And it was a little rocky. The team was scared. We went 100% delivery. I was a little nervous too. I ain't gonna lie. It was a gut punch, and we just doubled down on delivery. And we haven't looked back since. And that's all we do now.
No. You didn't want to do pickup and delivery, so can't possibly be like you want to stay as far away from that business as possible. Now
exactly.
That's all you're doing.
Exactly. Right. So wherever, and I can't remember the lady's name, but and the funny part, Jordan, I haven't seen her since that night. So I'm like, I don't know if this was some kind of sign or whatever. Like, people call it what they want. But since she said it, we did it. And where we are today from where we are then, it's just been a heck of a journey. And whenever I see her again, I'm going to hug her, and she gets free laundry and dry cleaning for the rest of her life, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, well, literally, I mean, she kind of transformed your guys' life and business and everything. That's pretty cool story to see, just some random older lady that changes everything for you, Right. And then you never see her again.
Yeah. It's like so weird. Like,
let's just call it what it is. She's a liar because she said she would use you if you started doing that. So.
She did. But thank goodness for grandmas. We need to listen to them more often.
That's right.
I'm glad I listened to her. I'm glad she broke me down. It's been a heck of a ride since she broke me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me back us up a little bit because I want to talk about some of the critical decisions that you've made and how you made them. Because I think your story is really interesting, right? Like we talked about your transition from being a teacher out of that. And that, is a big transition and a big decision to make. And we talked about your decision to buy the laundromat a little bit. Can you talk me through? Okay. And we talked a little bit about your decision to go into pickup and delivery. And it was mostly just you were tired and she caught you at the right moment enough times that you just were like, stop pestering me. I'll do it.
That's all it was.
Yeah. So, but talk to me about like these decisions. How are you making these decisions? Are you doing them intentionally? Or are you just kind of going with the flow? Like how are you making decisions? Because you've made some very big decisions in your life so far. How are you doing that?
So I probably will never be a Harvard School business case. I don't think anybody's going to do a white paper on us because we're so totally against what's taught. And I studied business in school. And probably everything they taught me except for, understanding financials, that's core, like understanding expenses and income and debits and credits. Like that's the foundation. Like that's what it is. You can get creative with numbers all you want, but there's a core that you cannot get away from. There is no formula for what I do. There is no, in my head, I have like, I want to have a 10-page business plan and I want to map all this stuff out. It ain't so. And I'm here to like share with the world. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who are like that. Like they struggle writing a business plan, or they feel they have to have some dynamic blueprint before they start something. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have plans or you shouldn't do research and study. A lot of things I just did. And I'm a firm believer in taking action, because we'll sit there. Somebody asked me I was on an Instagram live a while ago, and he asked me, and I can't remember his exact question, but he said, something about, studying and like planning versus, just doing something. And I told him straight out, I was like, the more you sit there and analyze, to me, it's a form of procrastination, because you're looking at the pros and cons, But, we're humans. We're wired a certain way. Like we kind of look for the bad stuff a lot. Like that's why news is what it is. And that's why the newspapers print the stories they do. The bad stuff draws our attention more than the good stuff for some weird reason. Mm-hmm. And over the years, I've been really forcing myself to always look at what's the positive. And it sounds all like The Secret and all that. And I ain't talking about none of that. It's just the pros were I could get more customers, or the real pro was I get this lady off my back from asking me about it. That was the biggest thing at the moment. I was like, okay, lady, like just stop bugging me.
Yeah.
And like I did it and put in, whatever. I had no idea what it was going to lead to now. It had zero expectations for it to be like, oh, I'm going to get all these delivery companies. I was like, it'd be cool, but whatever. I'm just going to put on the website. It's there. She can't ask me anymore. Some things I will sit down and like, I'll sketch it out. Like, I sketch out some notes for our thing today. Mm-hmm. I'll sketch stuff out real quick on a piece of paper in my notebook, but I have no secret formula or listen, I've been at cocktail parties. I've been at fundraisers, at dinners, and something pops in my head and I grab a napkin and a pen and I sketch out the stuff for the store on a napkin, and Jess looks at me and she just smiles. And people at the table are like, what is your husband doing? She's like, he's building the next part of our business.
He's and I'll sketch it on next honeymoon.
Exactly. Right. I've sketched it on in my house. I've got napkins with like schedules on it with ideas or diagrams or how we should do stuff. I'm just kind of in the moment. And I let that, I believe action is the key. I let that moment drive me to the next thing, but I don't do it blindly. Like, I'm not just like, oh, let's go blow $10,000 on this. Well, I've kind of done that.
You win some, you lose some,
I brought this piece of equipment for the store that we use. It was a great piece of equipment. So people could pay using QR codes and the app on their phone, and they paid at a kiosk. It was awesome. But we ended up shutting the store down like, I don't know, 5-6 months after I brought it. So this thing is sitting in my house now. And I'm just like, where I'm going to use it next. But yeah, I'm sorry to say I don't have any like system or plan that I could give all the listeners to say. I'm just like, just do stuff.
Yeah. Well, do not apologize for that, because I think that is the thing. I cannot tell you how many coaching consulting clients I have who want the business plan template, which is fine, like not bad to have it, who want to know every little piece of information possible. And I try to communicate, and I say this all the time on the podcast, like action is where it's at. Like you're never going to accomplish your goals without taking the action. Right. And, so it's, like you said, it's good to have that core bit of knowledge, that core bit of information, do your research, but it's about taking the steps. And, people, I've heard the analogy. I don't know who came up with it, but it's a famous one. Everybody's probably heard of it, but it's like, if you wait for all the green lights, to go, all the lights to turn green before you start going, you're never going to go. Right. And I see that happen all the time. And, what I love about your story is you're just kind of taking the next step and then taking a look around and seeing, okay, well, who's bothering me now and how can I get them off my back? And I'll start a whole business off of that,
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah. But I love that. So, I think that's way more valuable than any decision tree or any, system you could have in place to try to make decisions is, get the core information that you need and then take the step, right? Take the step and do it. And, honestly, like I'm not putting anybody down, because I get it. Like if you're trying to buy a laundromat, taking that first step, especially that can be very scary.
Right. And you, depending how much money you got to put out, like I'm in conversation with somebody now that's looking to sell their laundry route. And it's a good chunk of change that they want. And I could understand somebody getting into the business for the first time. It's probably their life savings or a chunk of their life savings that they're going to put on the line. So like you should do research, but at the same time, sometimes you gotta roll the dice. You just got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, surround yourself with good people too. You know, they'll save 100%. You from a lot of mistakes. Like you don't got to learn. I mean, that was a big part of my mistake, right? Like I learned all my mistakes, not all of them, but I learned a lot of my big mistakes, my expensive mistakes, because I was doing stuff on my own. Whereas if I had just had a couple people who knew a little bit more than me, it would have saved me tons of heartache, tons of money, tons of time, all that stuff. So that's, you know,
but you wouldn't have the battle scars, Jordan. That's what makes it super sexy.
That's right. Chicks dig scars. So
that's it.
I love that. Okay. So tell me about this. Okay. So you wanted to get this lady off your back and you started your pickup and delivery business. Okay. So how, you know, you kind of told a story, like you put this kind of jerry-rigged this system together where people could order on your website and it would let drivers know, you know, they need to pick up an order. Okay. How did you turn that into a business? Because I also talked to a lot of laundromat owners who maybe they just have a self-service business and they want to add a drop-off service, or maybe they have a drop-off service and they want to add a pickup and delivery service. And taking that leap can be just as scary too, you know, because you do have to make some investment, especially if you're going from, you know, self-service to drop off, or maybe you're unattended and now you need to have some attendance. So you got some overhead you got to take care of and you don't know if the business is coming in, or you got to buy a vehicle and pay drivers, but you don't know, you know, so how did you grow a business out of that? How did you scale that thing up?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And I'm going to try and drill down so the audience can, you know, get something super tactful that they can take away from it and hopefully apply in their business now or in the future. So it's a couple pieces to that. One, it's super scary. As you said, you're adding a new business component to a business and trying to figure, you know, what should I do and how I should do it. I just rolled the dice, you know, that's me. I've been fortunate that I have, and I currently have a great team at my businesses. My core team is super awesome. And that's one piece of advice I would give any operator. And I choose the word operator versus being in business. And that's something I'm sure we'll touch on later. But I have a great core team and they allow me to do all the crazy things that I do. Because I have we all get these ideas. But there's a saying like ideas are crap, execution is everything. And at first I bought into that for a little while. And then I'm like, that's crap. Ideas and execution are both equally important. You need an idea and you need good execution. And you notice I didn't even say a good idea. You need an idea and you need execution. And I hate using, the Uber example because it's just been used to death, but Uber wasn't the first application where you could have an app and order a cab, right? Listen, there are plenty of laundry pickup and deliveries. Everybody who's out here now wasn't the first. There were a bunch that came before us using technology so people could make orders on demand or whatever the time frame was. And, there are plenty who aren't here today who paved the way for the rest of us. So it's a huge, challenge that you have when you want to do this. So we did it. I really didn't give it much thought except to get grandma off my back. And then I thought about how do we get more people? The one thing I would encourage, and it sounds easy. People make it sound like it's easy, but it's super hard, is social media. I'm going to be absolutely 100% clear on this podcast. If it wasn't for Instagram, the soapbox wouldn't have grown the way it did in the time frame that we did. We wouldn't have doubled every month if it wasn't for social media. And listen, I'm one of those people back in the day that said, I will never use social media. I'm not putting no photos of myself, no videos. I'm not using it. Then I used it for real estate. And I was like, there's something to this. Then I watched people's behavior on it a little bit. Not nearly as much as I should have. And back then, Facebook was mature-ish, but it was still super early. Like organic growth was totally different than what it is now. But I started using Instagram in maybe late 2015, early 2016. opened the account for the soapbox. I had no idea I was like, it's laundry, it's dry cleaning. What are we going to post? I just took pictures in the store, us folding laundry, videos, us folding clothes, packing bags, slow motion, smiling, taking pictures. And then I stumbled on Facebook and Instagram ads, and it was game on. I started running ads, had no clue. And to this day, I still don't understand them. So they're so damn complicated, but I kind of have a basic understanding. But what I knew, Jordan, was I ran ads for the store. And this is when we had the self-service store. I ran ads and people started coming in the store complaining. It's like, why are they complaining? They were like, if I see your store pop up in my Facebook feed one more time, we're going to have a problem here. And I was like, wait a minute. You're complaining because you see our photo, our ad pop up in your feed so much. And they were like, if I see it again, it's a problem. But mind you, they were in there doing laundry when they said it. So I was like, this social thing is super powerful because I'm reaching people where they're consuming something on a personal side. So I was like, how do we make the content more personal? So that's when we were just taking pictures of ourselves and like, we would just make it super simple. Like I had no idea how to write copy and I still don't to this day. And I would just put like, hey, local laundromat, come by, drop your clothes off or use our machines, whatever. Like, look, we're having fun in the laundromat today. And when it got to the point when we had an Instagram account and this is when we started the Soapbox brand, which was totally separate. So we had two different brands. The self-service was one brand. And then the Soapbox was just our drop off and delivery brand. And people would send me DMs on Instagram at midnight, 1:00 in the morning saying, can you come pick up my laundry? And that's when I knew it was game on social. And I would DM them back and be like, thanks for wanting to make an order, but you kind of need to use this link and click here and download our app or go to our website and make an order. And they did. I remember Sarah to this day who DM'd me at 12:30 at night and I'm sitting in the bed and I'm like DM'd her back and she made her order and she wasn't in our delivery area either. She was like, oh, I'm on Easton Parkway. Like I'm outside of your delivery zone. I went into our app, changed the geofence super fast, DM'd her back and was like, you are now. And she made her order right then and there. And I was like, this is some really gangster stuff. And like, I really need to understand this. And I just took a phone and would take pictures. And then there was a young man in the neighborhood who had been dying to get a job with us. And I was like, as soon as you're old enough and you get your working papers, I'll let you work with us. And that summer, I gave him a cell phone and I said, all I want you to do is take pictures and record stuff. Anything and everything that happens around here, record it. Just document. Don't try and stage stuff. And then I would look at what he did at the end of the day and be like, okay, we could use this. We can't use this. And I would just post it randomly. I had no clue, no pattern, no nothing. And people kept following us. People kept DMing us. People kept making orders. And then before I knew it, we had like 4,000 people in our community on Instagram for the Soapbox. And I was like, dang, this is very interesting. Yeah. And really and then we were old school too. So I don't want to say it was all social, but social was a big impact. I would walk the neighborhood with another young man. I don't know if they do it out in your neighborhood, but there'll be people walking and put those circulars, like those coupon flyers in your mailboxes or on your doorstep. Yep. I saw these two gentlemen one day in the neighborhood when I was driving, walking. I pulled over, jumped out of the car and ran to them. I was like, hey, you want to make more money? And they were like, yeah, what's up? I was like, you want to hand out flyers for me when you're not handing out flyers for your boss? They were like, absolutely. We're off on Saturdays. I was like, come to my store. He showed up with his friend. I was like, here's 1,000 flyers. Here's a map. Hand them out. And all my friends in business would be like, yo, don't do that. You stupid. They're going to just throw them in the garbage. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I have this thing where people say, you have to earn my trust. I trust everybody 100% until you do something for me not to trust you. I don't believe in this. You have to earn trust. How do you earn somebody's trust? Like, that's crazy. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I trust them here. And then when they finish, I would drive. Was it Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify? So then I drive the neighborhood and look for the flyers and I would see them in people's doors and their mailboxes. And I only went a couple blocks. I was like, looks like they hand them. I don't care. And then orders came in. So we did flyers locally. I also did direct mail. So here's something hopefully the viewers and listeners can take away. I didn't do direct mail postcards. And I know there's a lot of talk about those. And I'm 50-50 on them. We did something totally different. I wrote personal letters to people in the neighborhood, sat there, we typed them up, made them look, super professional, got some really nice paper, not some cheap paper from the local Office Depot or Staples or whatever. Got some nice weight paper, envelopes. We hand addressed every envelope, no labels, no run them through a printer. And then I personally sat there and signed thousands of letters personally with a ballpoint or a felt tip pen so people could really see someone signed it. And we put them in envelopes and we mailed them. And we waited and we waited and we waited. And no orders came in. And we did it again. And we waited and we waited. And no orders came in. And we did it a third time. And the third time we put a 3-page letter in it. And orders came in, Jordan. People started showing up to the store with the letter in their hand because I put bring this letter and you get this discount or use the code when you do it online. People started calling us and saying, I got your letter. It was very professional and very nice. How do I make an order? I was like, shit, I should have made it 3 pages from the beginning.
Do you think it was a 3-page thing that did it? Or do you think it was because you mailed them 3 times? Or
I think it's both. I think it might have been one part of it is the repetition. They saw us again. The other part is it was handwritten, so it stood out from the rest of the mail. We put stamps on them. We didn't run them through a postage machine or had the indicia already on the envelope. We put a lot of work into it. So, and then the third one was, it was 3 pages, but it was more of a story type, explaining who we are, how we've been in the community for a while, I want to say the advantages of using our service, but we just talked about how we really care about people's clothes. Like I hate doing my own laundry, but for some reason I love doing other people's laundry. It's super weird. And I guess it resonated with people and they made orders. And we've done that combination of direct mail, online through social, running ads. And then some of it is just like word of mouth. Like we get a lot of referrals. And the other thing is Google too. Like Google is our friend. I love Google.
Are you doing paid Google or organic SEO stuff?
Okay, so here's a tip that I'm going to give to all your listeners.
Oh, snap.
I hope that none of them are in my neighborhood, but if they are, so be it. I did pay Google. Totally did not understand it. And then Google would send me messages saying, you need to increase your ads not serving, increase your budget amount. And I would increase it. And then I really didn't see any super results from it. And then I sat back and I looked at Google, not like super detailed, like you'll hear some of these stories from people. I just looked at it one day when I was doing searches for myself. And we have to remember Google is intent based. If someone's is on Google, they're looking for something like I Googled, like today, I'm looking for new scales because our scales were under 2 feet of water. Like I'm looking to buy a scale if I'm on Google. It's totally intent based versus Facebook, Instagram, Snap, LinkedIn, et cetera. It's kind of like I'm browsing and consuming for whatever other reason. And when I would search myself, I would look at the ads at the top. Then there would be this section in the middle where the map would pop up. So if you were searching for like restaurants, whatever, Google would always give you that map with the push pins. And then underneath the map, you would see like 3 businesses. That's all free. And I would say to myself, how the hell do they get there without paying? And I read, and everybody's got their theory because Google doesn't tell you everything. And I couldn't figure it out. And then I started using Google My Business. And I'm a firm believer in Google My Business. First, most people say, yeah, Waleed, I know Google My Business. I have it. I claim my profile. I'm verified and all that. Yeah, but you're probably not freaking doing what you really should be doing with Google My Business. And that's posting on it. So we went gangbuster and we started posting on Google My Business probably, 8 months ago. And we put up videos. We put up a bunch of photos when we claimed the Google My Business. And then I talked to the team one day and I was like, we should be posting to Google My Business. I was like, if I was Google, wouldn't I favor people who are putting more content onto my platform because my platform wants to get more people engaged. So if there's more content, people will be engaged and stay longer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, I want us to put hella content on Google My Business. We started putting photos. We started putting videos. Whatever Google would allow us to put, we started doing it. And I would get the emails. You got 32 views on this post from Google My Business. And I was sharing with the team and they'd be like, yes, we're making progress. Then I get another one. You got 132 views, or this video, whatever. People clicked on the link this many times. I'm a firm believer in Google My Business. I do not do paid Google. I'm not saying it doesn't work and it's not good and you shouldn't do it. I just can't, I can't wrap my head around the money I've spent on it and then the returns I've seen. I've heard people and I've seen case studies where people use Google and they got these huge returns. I don't know if it's just laundry and dry cleaning. It's just not, it just doesn't convert the same as a true e-commerce business where they're selling a tangible product. I'm not really sure. But my tip is for everybody out there, if you got a small business, brick and mortar, or even if it's just online, Google My Business. And those are things we did to grow when we first started.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the Google My Business tip is an awesome one because I think it is like, if you can post consistently on there, it's relatively easy to rank because nobody else is really doing that. Because, like you said, a lot of people will claim their Google My Business account, but staying on top of that thing, encouraging people to leave you reviews, keeping pictures up there, keeping your hours updated when there's holidays, making sure your hours are the same or correct, all that stuff. Google's like, okay, this person is, cares about their business and wants, people to be informed about their business. So we're going to promote them. It's awesome.
Yeah. And the more we did it, then I would, do searches from, incognito mode or private, depending what browser you use. And then I would do it from other people's computers in different locations. Like I'd be at friends' houses and I'd be like, pull out my laptop and what's your Wi-Fi? And then I would just like laundry services in Brooklyn, even though I'm like up in Yonkers, somewhere in New York, or I'm in Manhattan, just to see where we would pop up when I put in those, that criteria. And I would see we started popping up in that map area more and more. So I was like, it's got to be something to this. So I totally agree with, what you said. I'm on the same page. Yeah, and then people can send you messages through Google My Business too. Like there's a button that says request a quote. Now, I mean, technically they can go to our website and know how much money, what we charge for pickup and delivery and for walk-in, but I still turn the quote. But I just got a message right now. I just glanced down at my phone while we're through Google My Business. And somebody's asking about how to make an order and somebody else is asking on the status of their order. So use the quote button too. Like it takes 2 seconds, cut and paste it in your phone and say what the questions people ask you the most. Just save those in like your notepad or the hotkeys, depending what type of phone you have, and just cut and paste it and say, these are our hours, or, these are the prices we charge when they ask you for the quote. It's like super simple to engage. And when you engage, those people are there looking for your services. They're not messaging you just for the heck of it. Like they want the service. Yeah. Awesome tip. And, I think anybody who's, thinking about scaling their business out one way or another, whatever it is. I mean, I think those are awesome tips. I've seen some Instagram ads, but that's really interesting that was the one that like really, got you guys going. That's pretty cool. It was.
I like that. All right. So you started scaling out your pickup and delivery business and shut down your self-service business. Now that was partially due to the lease stuff. Is that why?
It was a combination of both. So we were already shutting, the self-service was closed a couple of days of the week already because we had so much drop off the process. So instead of fighting the customers for machines throughout the day, we would just say, we'll be closed these days where we can use the whole store, get stuff done. And then the customers could have the store on the busiest days of the week. We stayed open for them. So that was we were starting to get more days and the customers were getting less days. And then we had a team working on the overnight too. So when the lease situation came up, it was a little nerve-wracking, but it was almost to the point where I was like, well, we're kind of not running the store that much anyway. So why can't we get away from it? So that just made it a little, I guess it just forced our hand to go into the pickup and delivery, the service side of the business even more. I guess it was just like another one of those things that the universe put out there for us to keep pushing. So it was grandma. And now dad was like, I'm going to jack your lease up. So I'm like, all right, I got to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. Okay. So, I mean, you mentioned earlier that having a good team is key, right? And you even mentioned Dave Menz, Laundromat Millionaire, yep. Dave Menz, his team, and having a good team. Man. You've given your team a shout out for having a good team. How does one go about building a solid team? What does that look like?
Yeah. So to give you some perspective, because when I say this number, you're probably going to be like, why is he interviewing that many people for laundry business? So we have at our peak, we had 12 people on our team. So now we're around 7, let's say 7.5 people on our team working with us on the laundry side. But out of all our business together with Jess, we have about 200 team members. So I sit in on a lot of interviews, and I really believe in sitting in interviews. It gives me a perspective of understanding and just having conversations with people. But to answer your question, how do you go about building a good team? There is no magic questions to ask people. There's no perfect application to have. There's no secret assessment that you can give them to figure out who's going to be a great team member, who's going to be a bad team member. Out of all the years, and I've probably interviewed thousands and thousands of people between all of our businesses, I've found 2 things that work. People who are nice. That's my huge criteria. If you're nice, you have to have that. And you have work ethics. One of them I can kind of figure out in the interview, but I really can't because everybody shows up with their representative on the interview. It's a honeymoon for 3 months, give or take.
Right.
And then the work ethic, I don't know. It's what they tell me. You can call. I don't call references anymore. I barely even read I don't even really read resumes. I just glance at them to see what kind of work history they have on there, so I can ask them specific questions about it to see if they really did it. Right. And in the laundry business, like, what are you really going to ask? Like, I don't know what the stats are, but probably, I don't know, 7 out of 10 laundromat workers are off the books. So if I call a laundromat, they tell me they work there, that person is probably going to be a little scared to answer questions because they could think I'm calling from the Department of Labor or something, trying to, bust them. So I don't call references. And sometimes the references are their friends or like family members. They're going to tell me they're the greatest person in the world.
Right. Well, I'm not going to give you a bad reference, right?
Right. Like, I want you to hire Jordan because I want him off my couch and make some money. So, I look for those 2 things, work ethics and are they nice? And those are 2 things I can't train someone. Like, either you're born with it or somehow you acquire it from the environment that you're in. Mm-hmm. So those are the 2 things I look for. If you got an open mind, I can teach you anything that I know or we can learn together. But my biggest thing is I just go with my gut. Like, I talk to people if I get a good feeling from them during the interview process. And sometimes I'll do 2-3 interviews. The other thing I've done that I've seen some success from, I do like this trial thing. I've hired team members at the store, especially when we were doing a lot of folding at the self-service store before we moved it to another location. I would like, listen, you come in for a week, you're going to like do some drop off, you're going to run the store. You could get a feel for how we operate. And then we get a feel for how you work and make sure it's a good fit. I did that a few times. It worked well in some occasions, and other occasions it was just a total nightmare because it didn't work out. And then there was the whole logistics, like, oh, I want my last check and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can mail it to you, come pick it up. And it just was a nightmare. But I like to try. I would suggest people, you could try the trial method. I know plenty of entrepreneurs who do it and it works super well for them. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you just got to go with your feelings. Like, you interview people, what's the saying? Like, fire fast, hire slow. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of mixed depending on the business and what you're doing. There's a lot of times I've hired people on the first. I just hired a lady 2 weeks ago. Mature. I think she's going to be a freaking superstar. She's mature. I don't know. She's probably in her mid 60s and she wants to work. And she's going through a tough patch right now because of COVID and everything. And in the interview, she told me some of her story. You know, we all got a little misty eyed in the interview. And I was like, listen, how many interviews have you gone on? Like, how many people have called you? And she was like, I went on this many, people don't call me. And I was like, why do you think they're not calling you? She told me why. And I was just like, listen, you don't have to go on another interview after today. I was like, you're hired right now. I was like, as long as you pass the background check and everything else we got to do, I was like, I'm telling you right now, you got a job. And she started crying. I was like, get the Kleenex out. Like we all get like one of my HR team members, like she was all amped up, punched me in my shoulder in a meeting. She's like, I love working here. And I'm just like, yeah, I was just like, you got to take a chance. My manager at the Soapbox right now, it's an awesome story. She was in the food service business. She knew nothing about laundry. She came to an interview and she was like, I want to work. She's like, I'm a hard worker. I'm a good person, but nobody wants to give me a shot. And she told me how she went on her last interview before she came to meet with me. And it was at a fast food service, fast food. And she met with the manager. She knew the store. She knew the business backwards and forwards on food service. She's been doing it for years. And she didn't get the job because she didn't have the look. And that's all it was. She didn't have the look. What the look is, Jordan, she goes back to the store. She even told the manager, I will work free for a week so you can see that I know I can do this job. I know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. She went back afterwards to check in with him like a couple of weeks later. And he had hired some young lady who fit the look I guess he was looking for behind the counter, with her uniform fitting a certain way, and didn't give my manager a shot. And I want her to this day, she hasn't told me who this guy is, so I can go over, shake his hand, and thank him for not hiring her.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I want to hug him. I might even write him a check and say thank you. Because she came in, she's nice, and she has work ethics. And that's all I needed. And she's been, listen, I go to my store one day a week. And if it wasn't for her, and don't get me wrong, she's got a great supportive team around her too. They're super awesome. I go to the store one day a week. And like that one day is a day I have to go to do some things. But I go other times during the week. But if I literally said I'm not going to the store unless I have to, I would only have to go one day a week. And that one day would only be for like 3-4 hours. Because one, we've created processes, which is another conversation we can have about building a business and having processes and systems in place. But she manages those processes and systems very well. And so does the rest of the team. So the tip on hiring people is get a good feeling for people and take a chance. Take a chance on people because somebody took a chance on us somewhere throughout our life. Mm-hmm. And people take chances on us every day with their laundry. New customers drop their laundry off. They take a chance with us. They're trusting us not to lose it and fade it or bleach it or do whatever can happen with it, shrink it. So if people taking a chance on us every day, let's take a chance on some other people who come in, looks like they have their stuff together. And listen, I don't want to say what's the worst that can happen, but let's be realistic. You hire them, it doesn't work out. Listen, you shake their hand and you part ways and you go find the next person because you not hiring somebody is keeping you that further away from finding the next person. If you haven't realized, it's a freaking numbers game. The more people I interview, the more people I work with, the closer I'm getting to to creating a great team. Because there's no perfect team, but I'm creating a great team. So if I keep procrastinating, I don't know about this person. You know, they've got gray hair. Oh, they're missing a tooth. Or I don't know, their shirt was unbuttoned during the interview, et cetera, et cetera. I'm never going to find the good team members. So yeah, roll the dice.
I love that. And listen, I'll be honest. I think you get laughed out of business school for saying your hiring criteria is be nice and good work ethic. Right. But I mean, that is like, that's what you're looking for, especially in a job like this, right? If you're looking for a neurosurgeon, maybe you got to find a little bit more than that, right? Yeah. But in our industry, I mean, that is what you need, right? If somebody's going to treat customers well and treat the teammates well, and they're going to work hard and like what they do and want to do what they're supposed to do, I mean, that is the makings of a great team right there, right?
100%.
And if you hire somebody you find out after you hire them that they don't fit that and they're not meshing with the rest of the team, like you said, you shake their hand, just agree that it's not a great fit for them and go find somebody else. And I love that. I love that. Easier said than done.
It is.
But I love the simplicity. It's like a profound simplicity. Maybe it's just you're hitting me at a right time where I'm hiring some people right now too. And I'm like, man, I love that. But man, I think it's a profound simplicity on what to look for in a team.
Yeah. We like Jordan, we so overcomplicate stuff. Like even in how I said I wouldn't do delivery before. I said the same thing about dry cleaning. Mm-hmm. Like my dad was like, "Oh, don't do dry cleaning. Like the garments are too expensive, and if something goes wrong." And I'm like, "Why are we always going to talk about what could go wrong? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about everything that could go right with this." Like, First of all, let's be real here on this podcast. The margins in dry cleaning are ridiculous. Like when I started doing dry cleaning, I was like, "Wait a minute, my wholesaler is going to charge me this." And the market will bear this number. I was like, oh, hell no. We're doing dry cleaning. Like, oh, I was like, get on Vistaprint. I was like, make a banner, put outside, dry cleaning now available, put it on the website. And I was like, and we're not even going to talk about commercial dry cleaning. Like I just got 2 emails while we're talking about having some discussions about commercial accounts for dry cleaning. Yeah, there's way more positives than negatives. And I think that's where people need to focus on. And let's be there. When you need a hire a brain surgeon, go get one. Mm-hmm. But if you're hiring someone to work your front counter at your cafe, your laundromat, your supermarket, your deli, keep it simple. Find good people, great customer service, and people who want to better themselves and they buy into what you're doing in your business. You know, it's super, it's hard, but it's super simple at the same time.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to go back. You mentioned something earlier. I don't know if you had more to say on this, so I want to give you an opportunity if you did. If not, we can go to the next thing. But you mentioned kind of the difference between being an operator and a business owner. And I don't know if you want to say something on that.
Yeah, I might have said it a little wrong, but there's this thing, and I have a couple colleagues and friends who are in business. And when you talked about the barbershop analogy, and I don't want to get any smack from any barbers out there. I don't want to say this wrong because when I go get my next haircut, I don't want my barber / groomer jacket my head up.
I was telling my kids I'm at that age. If I shave my head, it may not grow back. I'm not sure. So you gotta be careful.
I'm like, I tell them like, don't touch my hairline in the front. Like, I'm not trying to make a comeback on that. Don't touch it. I when I look at businesses, I like to look at them as a whole. And I'm really super right now. I don't even know what the right word to use, but I'm like so infatuated right now with systems. And when I look at businesses and when you mention like, why didn't I be a barber versus a laundromat? And when I'm in different businesses, like I go to the dentist or I go to the barber or, Jess goes to get a hair done at the beauty salon or, I drive by a nail shop and those are the ones that just jump into my head real quick. Or friends I have that are like starting their side hustle, they're growing their side hustle into a business. And I'm always interested in those businesses where you have to do the work yourself versus when you have a business where you can build this system that will generate the money for you. Now, don't get me wrong. You have to still do work. It's just a different type of work. So if I'm not at the soapbox right now, orders are still getting processed. Deliveries are getting picked up and brought to the store. It's generating money without me actually doing it. And not to knock barbers or anything. If I don't cut a head that day, I don't make money. So if I say I want to sit home or my dentist, I want to stay home and not do a root canal or not do a cleaning or whatever else they do, where's the income? Now, if they build a practice or like one of the colleagues and business associate I have, he has a grooming shop. So he has a couple barbers or groomers, and they have someone else who does like hair coloring and different things. So he's built this ecosystem around the hair care. So even if he doesn't cut any heads that day, well, he doesn't cut any hair. Let me not say cut heads. He doesn't cut any hair that day. He still has income coming in. So I'm super fascinated with building systems in the business that keeps your business operating without you being there, or doing different type of work. You know, you're able to work on the business versus working in the business. I'm super like intrigued by that versus having a, and I'm not using the right terminology, but you know, having a business where I got to do the work myself. And I totally butchered this for all your viewers.
Well, no, it reminds me of, I don't think you did, but it reminds me of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. I don't know if you've read that, but I think what you're describing is the difference between being self-employed and being a business owner.
That's it.
Right? In his terms.
You nailed it.
Right. And so, you know, if you're self-employed, nothing wrong with that, but you're buying yourself a job and you're still, you know, in Kiyosaki's terms, you're still trading time for money. Right. Whereas if you're building the systems, your system is the one that's generating the income, and your role is upkeep, improvement, advancement of the systems, and management of the people, and not doing the work and trading your time for the money. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing from you.
You totally simplify. You did the Cliff Note versions of everything I said.
Wow.
And that's it.
Kiyosaki did, but yeah. No, but I mean, I think you're dead on. And I think that's a mindset shift that's happening in this industry right now where, you know, I think the mom and pop laundromat for a long time was like, hey, we go sit at the laundromat all day, every day. And, or I go clean it up myself, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with either of those business models. And if that is what you want to do, you know, go sit at the laundromat. And I've done that, you know, plenty of times at my laundromats where I've been there all day, and I actually kind of like it because number one, I can do my desk work, you know, over there during the lulls. But number two, I get to meet the community. I'm hanging out with people. I'm talking with people. So I kind of like that, and I get the appeal of it. But on the other hand, if you know, maybe have bigger ambitions, you know, the kind of difference between your dad and you, where your dad was like, we want to be this size. And you're like, I want to be this size and see how much bigger than that I can get. Right. Then you got to think a little bit differently and invest in those systems and invest in the people who can work in those systems and who can manage those systems for and with you. Right.
No, it totally does. And you summed it up and nailed it perfectly. And I am not one, listen, I've been self-employed. I sold real estate. Like, you're self-employed until you build a team around you. Like, I had to go show every house. But, you know, in those different things I've always done, I looked at how can I take something from every either job I've had or business I've, you know, worked in or worked with someone or a partnership and say, how can I take the different aspects of that and apply it to what I'm doing now to make that better? And there's nothing wrong with being self-employed. Like, I am not knocking it. And I think we're caught up in a culture now where there's this whole culture that's being promoting people like you shouldn't have a job. You should be an entrepreneur. And let me be absolutely clear. That's total BS. Like, if you're not cut out for this, listen, this shit is hard. I don't know if I can curse on this podcast, but this is hard.
It's appropriate, man, because it is hard.
Right. And I think people get misled, and I don't knock it at all. And it's nothing wrong with having a 9 to 5. And people who get poo-pooed on the internet and downplay people, I'm like, you take that somewhere else. There are hardworking people out here every day who go to work 9 to 5 or whatever shift they do, and they are the backbone of this country. There are 30 million plus small businesses in the United States. Let's be absolutely clear. There would not be 30 million small businesses if people didn't go to work 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
So, it's super. And I'm not saying the point where I don't want people to misconstrue the message and say, oh, I don't want people to be entrepreneurs because I want them to just work for all of us. That's not the case. This takes a lot. You sacrifice a lot to build a business. It takes a toll on you personally, physically, mentally, financially. And if you're in a relationship, forget it. Like, we can talk for days about people who I used to date when I was growing businesses or I had these crazy ideas and trying to build a business, and they'd be like, yeah, you're crazy. Like, why are you doing that? Yeah. And I'm like, I guess this ain't going to work because I'm going to build a business one way or the other. So if she's not going to support me, it's nothing wrong with her. It's just that she's not cut out for this. Right. That's all it is. So I just like people to understand. But, going back to what we were saying, there is a total difference between being self-employed and having a business system, owning a business and building a business. And I see that a lot in the laundry industry. And you said it, like you sit in the store, and you're just there whatever amount of time, and you factor that into your business model. Mm-hmm. And I'm always intrigued to say, how do we look at whatever business it is? It's the barber, the nail technician, or whoever it is. How do you build that into a system where you can still do it when you want to because you love cutting hair or you love styling hair, but how do you build this system around you where there's other people doing it, or maybe you sell products, or you do consultations, or you do virtual meetings, so you can have other income coming in without you physically always having to be there self-employed, as our friend Kiyosaki would say. Yeah, I love that. And going back real quick to the relationship thing, I don't think you have to go any further than to say that you have a honeymoon laundromat, right? Like, you don't know if you can't understand that there's sacrifice in relationship when you go into business. I mean, the fact that you spent your honeymoon opening up a laundromat, I mean, it speaks for itself, because not many people are willing to do that. And, like you said, it takes a unique kind of person. So I love everything that you're saying. And I mean, I think you're spot on. And I think, the key really is to figure out what's a good fit for you. Right. And like my wife, for example, she loves the consistent income. She loves the security of having the government job. She's a teacher and she loves that and cannot handle, income fluctuations or not knowing, and for me, I'm like, whatever. I made $30,000 this month and I made nothing this month. Like, right. I'll eat noodles this month and next month I eat steak. That's right. That's right. So I love that. But what you said is a good point. And that's awesome, Jordan. And that's a healthy balance, because here your wife, she prefers, I have this government job, the stability, and there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to say, well, she could get fired tomorrow. Like, forget that. And let's be clear. Everybody who has a job is an entrepreneur, because you represent your own brand at work every day. And all of us have workplaces. We had coworkers who were lazy, who were late, who did half-ass job at work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that was their brand. That's their business that they represented in the workplace. But she has the stability. She has the comfort. And it's a peace of mind that comes along with the income. That's the stability of that income. But on the other hand, it mends well. I'm just screwing this all up here right now. It goes together well with your entrepreneurial side, because now the family knows for sure, at a minimum, we have this stable income coming in. So now you go out there and be a rock star in the laundry business, and you do it. Now you exceed the minimum. So our lifestyle is around here, where we know we have guaranteed income. And then everything you do above that as an entrepreneur becomes extra for you and the rest of the family and the kids. It's an awesome balance. And people don't realize it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. There can be a nice combination of both worlds. And it works well together when you put everything on the table and figure it out and work it out to its fullest. Yeah, exactly. Love that you said that. And those were number one, those were hard realizations for us to come to about each other and about ourselves. And they were difficult discussions to try to figure out how to navigate that. Right. And so, but exactly what you're saying is like, we try to live under what my wife makes and save a bunch of her money too. But also, that leaves a lot of room on top from all the different sources of income. We got real estate, we got laundromats, we got online stuff, laundromat resource stuff. Like,
for there to be extra there. And then we can decide, hey, do we want to go on a crazy vacation, or do we want to go buy another laundromat or a rental property or start another business? So, or pay Waleed copious amounts of money to come on the podcast, whatever we need.
I'll send you my Cash App, Zelle.
There you go. There you go.
Listen, you get it for free, Jordan. Totally free.
All right, Waleed, we have a section called Secret Sauce.
Listen up, it's the secret sauce.
And awesome. Secret Sauce is, hey, give us laundromat owners, people who own laundromats right now, or pick up and delivery businesses. Your call. You've done it all. Give us something that we could implement into our businesses, maybe that you see working well in your business, or that has worked well in the past that would help us improve our businesses.
Secret sauce. I've got two things. One is social media. We talked about earlier.
Yeah,
I would look at all the platforms and figure out of those platforms one or two that you feel your target audience is on and that you're comfortable utilizing, and go hardcore with that platform or those two platforms. And, I'm not saying you got to post every day or 3, 4, 5 times. Figure out a schedule that's good for you and consistently do it.
Mm-hmm.
And show who you are in your business. And when I say who you are, you don't have to be like, you're like, oh, Waleed, I don't want to be like these influencers and posting videos of myself and stories and all that about what I do during the day. When I say who you are, I'm talking about who your business is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is true for a lot of businesses, but laundromats, even more. We are way behind the curve when it comes to technology and branding. Like Ariana she's doing a freaking awesome job with the whole, like that laundry thing. Like I got to put my pinky up every time I say it. Like I got to put 2 up because she's got 2 stores. She like, we're so behind the curve on that. And when I say you on the social platforms, that you need to personalize your business so people can connect with it more. Like they can see like who's folding their clothes. Like legitimately, like who's folding my underwears? Like I want to know what's like,
right. Yeah.
Like people, you'll be surprised how many people can, like, you're a local business in the community. People know you. You're a fabric of the community. You're a piece of it. Like get more connected. You mentioned earlier, you love being in the store. And I so miss that, being in the store, like connecting people, doing the washing. They coming in doing their own laundry, and they're in there for a couple of hours. You get to talk to them. You hear the stories about their kids, or I've seen their kids grow up. They've watched me grow up. And I miss that part of it. But you can have that you can have a similar connection online. Like they see in the photos behind the scenes of what goes on at the laundromat. They get to see like your process of how you fold the clothes. Like make some short videos of like, why is your process so different than everybody else's? Like, let's be clear, the laundromat industry, it ain't no secret sauce. It ain't no science to this, and no pun intended to the secret sauce segment here. But we're all doing the same thing. We're taking cold water, hot water, some soap, and some other agents, and we're putting them in a machine with some clothes to get them clean. It ain't that complicated, ladies and gentlemen. It just really ain't. I'm sorry to break this to you.
Way to ruin the secret sauce. Jeez.
I'm sorry. But using the social media to connect with them, to make your brand more personable, move it away from being a brand and give the business a persona so people can interact with it and relate with it. And like something simple is when people DM you or send you a message through Google My Business, they send you a message, and instead of you saying, we can, how about you just say, I can? So then even though they're communicating with the logo of your business, instead of them hearing we all the time and they're like, oh, it's the company, it's the brand, and you're saying I, they don't know who you are, but they're going to relate I to this one-on-one connection now with the brand, whatever that logo is in the avatar, whatever they call the thing these days, that moves with the chat message. And they're like, oh, well, the Laundromat Resources just said, I will get back to you about our new Laundry Con program we got going on with your tickets for the event. Like they're gonna be like, oh, like now I feel like Laundromat Resources is communicating to me one-on-one. It's like it's a person. It's not just this entity. That would be my one secret sauce for
love that.
Using social. The other would be customer service. And people talk about customer service all the time. And I'm rolling out something new that, it's not new. We've been doing it for a little bit, but I'm really going hardcore with it. So I can't tell you all of it exactly right now. So we'll have to check back in like a couple of months. But
way to get yourself back on the podcast right there.
Man, I like that.
Now I got to have
selling
you back
myself in advance.
I like that.
It's my hook. Customer service, and people talk about it a lot. And I'll probably get a lot of smack about this. What I'm going to say is, I'm super aggressive with customer service. And people are like, oh, Waleed, in the laundry industry, people take advantage. Listen, I've seen it. I've been through it. And I don't care, because there are more good people out here than there are bad people. Mm-hmm. And I'm not built. I said this to my management team the other day. It was like, oh, we need to put a policy and penalties in place for people who break the rules of the company and do these particular things. I was like, guys, I hear you. And I've been there. I've done it before. I am not going to build any business or any policy in our business around people who are bad or bad behavior. We're going to build this for people who are good and good behavior. So if we have a few people who like to forge the timesheets, or, people who steal out the register, we will figure out how to build a better system so it deters theft. But what we really need to figure out is, who are people who don't steal? What are their characteristics in the interview? And hire all of them immediately, because then I don't have to worry about how much money is in the till at the end of the shift. And then I can take that attention and focus it on more customer acquisition, or better customer service, or folding the clothes faster, or packing the bag neater, or getting the orders to them faster on the route. Like, let's take that energy for trying to figure out how to stop these bad guys and focus on how do we service the great people more. So with customer service, we know in laundry, there's, as anywhere, they're bad clients. And they're clients that will tell you, oh, this was in my order, and it really wasn't there. Whether they do it on purpose or they didn't realize it's in the back of their closet, but they swore this $100 blouse or sweatshirt or hoodie or shorts or what favorite pair of socks was in that laundry order, and we lost them. Jordan, I settle as fast as I can and to get it over with. And I'm going to catch mad flack about this in your comments. I know I am, but I don't care. I really don't, because the sooner I get that off my plate, it frees me up to focus on I had an order the other day. The customer said something was still damp. It wasn't dried all the way. I don't know if it's true or not. And I don't think the customer's lying. They had a comforter. So maybe the team member didn't turn it and fluff it enough through our normal procedure. And maybe some of the feathers were still damp in it. And I don't even know if it was a down comforter, but let's just assume it was a down, because those things are hard as hell to dry sometimes. Mm-hmm. And maybe it was still damp. The customer called the manager and sent a message through, our web portal. And I told him, manager was like, what do we, and we have a set procedure in the store. I was like, if they say this is an issue or they complain about any one of these things, this is what you do immediately. It doesn't even have to go past the manager and the customer is waiting a couple of days for me to get back to them, or they have to pull rank on the manager. I want to speak to the owner. Like, I don't want any of that. I want it eliminated from the beginning. I want my team members in the store to be totally empowered with fixing it. And I'm sure we've all had experiences like at hotels, or you go to a resort or a restaurant, and the person that you're dealing with right there says, no problem, sir, ma'am. This is what I'm going to do to correct that for you. I think it's the Hilton hotels, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe the Marriott, but I want to say it's Hilton. Mm-hmm. And I read in about them that I think it's the desk managers or whoever is right there in the front when you check in. And it might be each team member. They have up to, I think, a $2,000 budget that they can spend on your experience at the hotel. So if you come, and it doesn't have to be anything bad. You come in and you happen to mention to them like, oh, I'm here with my wife and it's our anniversary tomorrow. And the person in the front desk is like, anniversary, makes a note of it. And then tomorrow you get flowers and you get champagne and you get a compliment. And they happen to hear you mention steak when you were having lunch or something, and they have a steak dinner delivered to your room, or when you show up to the restaurant that night at the hotel, and you're totally blown away. And there's a handwritten card or a note that just says, this is on us. Happy, and I would say happy birthday, happy anniversary, Mr. and Mrs. Barry. Right. And you're totally blown away. That's what I'm talking about with customer service, not just when stuff goes wrong, but when stuff is still going right. And secretly, I kind of love when my team screws up, because I get to we get to shine on making it up to them. And I hope they're not listening because I don't want my team to screw anything up. They're like, oh, Waleed loves when we screw up.
Right? Let's make his day and mess everything up.
Let's just screw all these orders up, and he gets to make it up to all these people. But when I say customer service, when stuff goes wrong, the faster we respond to it, I think I know the better we are as businesses. Because think about when you go somewhere and something gets screwed up. All you want is some attention and a freaking resolution. That's all you want. But when it gets dragged on, they're like, well, I got to call this person. I got to call a manager, or I got to escalate it to another. You start getting frustrated, whether it's external or internal. You get somewhat annoyed. And then you start thinking in your head, I spent all this money over this time period. And this is how, well, we all think it one form or another. Some of us are just worse than others. I don't want it to get there. Customers thing wasn't, the manager right away. I said, how much was her order? This is a $70 order, right? I said, you credit her card right now, 100%. And the manager was already in the process. She just called me to give me the heads up. Credit the account and tell her next order, she gets a discount on it. Or if she wants, we'll send a driver to come pick it up today, tomorrow, whenever's good for her, and we'll redo the order. Because if the comforter was damp, I'm sure it's going to go sour after a while. And then some of our other clothes are going to get impacted. Jordan, you won't believe how many, times we've had issues and we've reacted super quick. The customer was one time the customer texted us and said something about her order. And I don't even remember what it was. Manager called her immediately, right? Here's another secret sauce. Get some type of help desk software for your laundromat or your laundry service. Plug it into your website or get a help. If you ever use other software services or use other companies, they use Zendesk or they use like Help Scout. Like I use Help Scout. Like I'm totally putting everything out there. I use Help Scout. I encourage every laundry owner to get some type of help desk service. And it's a dedicated email. When that email comes in, it hits that software and it distributes to everybody on your notification tree. You can put the app on your phone. So in real time, when that complaint comes in. This customer just sent us a message and I don't remember what the heck it was. And the manager called her immediately as soon as she got the email. And the customer was blown away that we even called. She said, I'm surprised you called me. I just wanted to let you know something was wrong, but I didn't think you were going to call. And we called and she wasn't really upset, but she just wanted us to know. And we solved the problem for her and we did whatever later on for her. To make up for the inconvenience, because it was an inconvenience. One, she had to waste time sending us an email telling us that we effed up, right? Then whatever was wrong with her clothes, she had to deal with that. So we totally inconvenienced her. And we wasted her time because our purpose of our service is to make it easy for people, to save them some time. And we wasted her time because now she has to deal with whatever was wrong with the order, plus send us a message. But she was super blown away that we communicated with her. Like, how simple is that? Call somebody, email them back, text them back. Hey, sorry for the inconvenience. This is what we could do to make it right. And then the other part of customer service is don't wait for stuff to go wrong. Like it's their anniversary. It's this thing we call laundryversary, right? The time that they started using us, that they signed up to use our delivery service. We know exactly when they create an account. So then we send them something, like we email them, we mail them something. Like if you think I sit there and sign thousands of letters for people that we're trying to get to use our service, imagine what we do for people who are already on our platform. Yeah. Who've been using us. Like we have customers who've been using us since we started in 2015, the soapbox. Like forget the self-service part of it. But when we started the soapbox, I'm like I love them. They're like super valuable. Like we send them flowers. We send them cookies. And here's the other thing. It doesn't always have to cost you. Like I'm going to blow your secret sauce up now. All right, let's talk about customer service. Here's a tip for all of us. You have a business. Hopefully you have business credit cards, right? I'm sure we all do. There's these things called points on your business credit card. You can redeem them for stuff. You can buy stuff on Amazon, etc. Most of us probably think about ourselves when the points come in. I'm redeeming these to get whatever. Here's what I say. Take your damn points and buy gift cards. Take the gift cards and give them out to your customers. It costs you absolutely nothing. I'm a firm believer in not like trying to rack up a whole bunch of debt, even though I do have some. And it just seems to I can never get rid of it, but it just keeps coming back to more and more we do. But, whatever. It's how you manage it. But I typically, you know, a lot of our stuff we'll use debit cards for it, or we pay cash just to get it out the way so it's not looming over our head later on. And it helps us manage the books better because we know exactly what's going out and what's coming in. But, you know, I'd say, you know, within the past, I don't know, 6 months, give or take, I switched up the model a little bit for certain things. I will buy these supplies and things we need, the detergent, you know, reoccurring supplies at the store, whatever we might need, bags. Cleaner Supply loves us as well as the rest of us in this industry. I used a card and then I immediately transfer the money that I would have used for the debit card to make the purchase to the card account, and it's done. It's the same thing. It's one extra step for me, but whatever. And then the points, I get a whole bunch of gift cards. Hope none of my clients are listening. And I give the gift cards away. We do raffles. We do serve. All right, here's another secret sauce. Are you surveying your customers? How the hell do you know whether you're doing a good job or not? Just because they come back don't mean you're doing a good job. It just means you've done enough for them to come back. You've met the standards. So we put a card in every order where we ask them to fill out a survey online electronically. They fill out the survey and they give us feedback. And based on that, we give out gift cards too for them taking the time to fill out. It's not a super long survey. I don't know, less than 10 questions. And it's about their particular order and the service and what we do. And we give them gift cards for that too. So that costs me one extra click on the computer to move the money from the cash account to the credit card versus just putting in the debit card and not being bothered with it anymore. So what does that cost us to use that in the customer service aspect to do stuff that's good, or to listen? Like you said, you're in the store. Like, I think it's a huge advantage. Someone who has a self-service store and you do drop off in your store, I think you have a huge advantage over somebody like me who just does pickup and delivery. Because when they're spending the time in the store, and granted, people can walk into our store and drop off, but our process is like somebody's in our store less than a minute when they drop off, unless they got a huge order. Like, we've super streamlined it because we want them in and out and we want to respect their time. But in the self-service, they might hang around a little bit, and especially some of these fancy laundromats, they got like the little cafes in it now, or you can get coffee on the side. Like, I think it's so awesome. And they start talking about, oh yeah, so-and-so is graduating next week, or, you know, I can't believe, you know, it's been this many years that I've been coming to the store, and like, look how old my daughter is now. She's starting kindergarten next week, or whatever it is. And now you've got a piece of information to blow that customer away. You've got their name, you've got their address, you've got their email, and you know that their daughter starts kindergarten next week. You can just go order some school supplies with your points and have it delivered to their house and be like, congratulations, Katie, on starting kindergarten, and some new notebooks, some crayons. Like, you've won. And it costs you absolutely but a few moments to click and order and have it delivered to their house. They will love your business for the rest of their lives. This stuff is so simple. What we need to do in business is just do good, and not do it looking to get something back. Just do it because it's the right thing to do, and your business will freaking prosper as a byproduct of you doing good by your clients. Just be in touch with them. So I probably totally ran over the time limit for a secret sauce.
Well, you simultaneously dismissed secret sauce and gave like 30,000 secret sauces. So I don't know how you pulled that off, but no, seriously, that was incredible. And I just shut my mouth and let you go because you were just spewing off.
Totally rambled.
No, you were spewing off all kinds. I mean, I've been taking crazy notes over here.
Remarkable there. I see that.
Do you have one?
I've got the older version and I'm kind of still pissed at them.
Dude.
Because the new one came out right after I brought mine, and I emailed them. I even went in their social and was like, can I get an upgrade? Like, I'll pay. Like, can I get some trade in? And they totally ignored me. Horrible customer service. Horrible.
Dude, horrible. But the remarkable too. I mean, if anybody is looking for productivity, this has like quadrupled my product. I'm gonna put a link to it just in case you're interested.
They need to give you some kind of sponsorship.
I know they need to sponsor the show. It's awesome though. Anyways, I've been taking crazy notes over here. I've been writing down, like, I have a quote section that normally I write down like 1 or 2 quotes, and you have like 7 quotes. One of the things I loved, I just wrote down this phrase, is aggressive customer service. And I mean, I love that phrase because it just, I mean, the things that you were saying are the things that make successful businesses successful, right? Thinking about customers on a whole nother level, right? Like when I got into this business, I was not thinking about any of those things whatsoever. I was just trying to figure out what the heck was going on with life and business and all that stuff. But
me too.
I mean, but thinking, even you say it like it's simple, like, oh, Katie's starting kindergarten. Let's buy her some crayons and send it over there. We have her address. But you have to be, and it is simple, but you have to have the mindset where you're looking to do good, which is another quote that I wrote down. What we need to do in business is just do good, like for people. But you need to have that mindset, and you need to train your team to have that mindset too. And you mentioned, the Hilton or whoever it is that has trained their team and has given them tools and resources to be able to think that way for their customers. Man, hugely valuable secret sauce right there. Yeah. Did not see that coming.
I didn't know it was coming either. It just kind of like, the sauce just flowed out of me.
The sauce just flowed right after you dismissed the secret sauce and said there is no secret sauce.
I'm sorry.
No, you're golden, man. Okay. Well, I'm a little nervous to ask this question, but do you have this section is called Pro Tips.
Pro Tips.
Do you have any advice for somebody who's maybe either trying to buy their first laundromat, or maybe they have a laundromat and they're trying to start a pickup and delivery business? Do you have any advice for either one of those camps?
Okay. Let's try. I'm going to try and tackle both. I love it. I'm going for gold here.
I love it.
So buying a laundromat, I haven't brought a laundromat, so full disclosure here. But I have looked at quite a few laundromats because I'm on the distribution list for business brokers in my local area. So if anybody's familiar with New York, we have what's called the 5 boroughs, but inside the boroughs are different counties. Like it's totally crazy here. So there's certain counties and boroughs that I always look at. And they send me all alerts. So it's always very interesting looking at the financials of dry cleaners and laundromats, as well as laundry delivery, pickup and deliveries that are for sale. So, and it's kind of basic, probably what I'm going to say is probably been said a million times. But when it comes to a laundromat, what always interests me is the utilities. 100%. Like people, they tell me like, oh, I have this mix of machines, or I did like, I'm like, cool. I just want to see your utilities, bro. And
the bills or what?
The gas, electric, water, sewer, trash. Like I want to see all your bills. And I'm sure there are plenty of owners out there or people in the industry. If I look at your bills, I don't care how much money you tell me. Like I've had people just tell me, oh, the store does this amount. And I looked at their utilities and I was like, oh, hell no. There's no way that they're making that money and their utilities are this low. I was like, unless they've got some kind of water treatment plant and they're recycling water or something.
Well,
like, I'm like, exactly. They got a well. I'm like, no way your water bill is this low. And like they're in New York City, everybody's tied into the main and we've got meters now. It's no more frontage and they're getting us because we pay twice. So we pay for the water coming in and we pay going out. And sewage in New York is twice as much as the water coming in. Mm-hmm. And I've even argued the fact where our sewer bill is inaccurate. And they were like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. I was like, let's be absolutely clear. When I wash the clothes, there is still water in the clothes when we put them in the dryer. So truly, the amount of water that comes in is not the exact amount of water that I'm flushing down the sewer drain, because a lot of water, not a lot, but a good portion of water gets evaporated with the clothes in the dryer. I was like, can I get a discount for that? They were like, oh, no, like they didn't want to entertain that. But I would always want to look at the finances, the utilities of the business that you're interested in buying. The utilities will tell you a lot. And then you might say, well, Waleed, it's my first laundromat, so I don't know what the barometer is for a water bill or for a gas bill or electric bill based on the number of machines they have. 100%. And I'm not even going to sit here and tell you, like, go to the manufacturer and find out how many watts or how many gallons of water the washer uses and figure, because it's different cycles and all that. I'm not even going to pretend and come up with some spreadsheet. What I would say is,
I got one, by the way. Feel free to go to Laundromat Resource and download it if you want it.
Oh, I'm going. You know what? Somebody had one and like they wouldn't share it with me. It was a distributor.
What? I got one. It's free.
Not for the store, but for doing laundry. Like when I first started doing drop off and pick up and delivery, like I tell you in my head, I'm like super detailed and itemized, but in life, I'm like, give me a napkin. Let's go. Right. I was like, I need a spreadsheet so I can get to the penny how much it costs for me to do this drop off. And there's one gentleman that had it and he's like, I can't share it to you because it wouldn't be fair to my customers. And I'm like, dude, you're in like Colorado. Like I ain't coming here to open a store, do delivery yet.
That's right. Yet. I like that. That would be
super interesting for me. But yeah, I would say if you get to utilities, find someone else in the industry who's has a store of comparable size or even could be bigger and ask if you could, or like, I don't know, hook up with Jordan in the mentoring program through the Laundromat Resource and say, listen, what do you see as your members' stores utilities? And this is what I see for this store. How much revenue are they doing? And this store owner told me they're doing this much revenue. Does this kind of make sense? Just comparing apples to apples. I'm a big fan of looking at the utilities, and it's just from over time. Like I even had it with my dad. My dad was like, oh yeah, when I took over the store, he's like, oh yeah, we're doing this much revenue a week. And I was just like, really? This might be super attractive now. And then I opened the store and I was like, I don't see these numbers, Dad. He's like, well, because you're not doing it right and you're doing this wrong. But I looked at his utilities and looked at my utilities and I'm like, they're about the same. Mm-hmm. So that tells you a whole story. The other thing I would say is you mentioned about getting started in the delivery business. For the first year, I think one of the biggest expenses or challenges is drivers, and then the expense of having a vehicle and the insurance, et cetera, et cetera. The first year I did pick up and deliveries myself. So I started the route 6 a.m. or 7 o'clock, whatever it was back then. I would do it for, I think, 4 or 5 hours. I think I did 4 hours. And then I would finish, drop everything back off at the store, go to the office, do other work for our other business, and then get back in the car. And our business is in the Bronx, our office is in the Bronx. So then I drive 17 miles to the Bronx, finish there, rush back to Brooklyn for the evening deliveries, load up the car. Sometimes Jess would be in the car with me because I didn't have time to drop off, or she would like, just keep going. We'll go to the store and do deliveries. We do deliveries for another 4 hours. And then I'd be done. First of all, I saved hella money by doing it myself in the beginning, but forget the money. You know how much I learned about delivery and the customer service and how much time, like even if you have a team, I would encourage anybody who's doing delivery and want to start, go do some deliveries yourself. My drivers can't tell me smack about doing deliveries. Oh, Waleed, like it was traffic and that's why I could only do 4 orders in an hour because we have hour pickup and delivery windows. I'm like, BS. I would do 8 orders in an hour in New York City. Traffic, parking, apartment, and we got walk-up apartment buildings in here. There's no elevators. There's no fancy buildings. Right? There's some new ones now in my neighborhood, but not they buzz you in. You run up 4 or 5 flights of stairs to get to the top floor with 2 heavy bags of laundry. And I would get 7, 8 done in an hour, hustling. And I was driving a Mini Cooper, so laundry was packed in this thing with the seats folded down, and I'm running. And before that, I had a little Ford Escape, and I packed everything in it, and I ran around. So I would say, and this is contradictory, and the more we talk, I'm like, Waleed is a huge contradiction, but it goes against what we talked about before about being self-employed and having a system. You should be involved in this business that you're building, in this system, so you understand the components. I'm not saying you have to be an expert in every piece of it, but when your team members are talking to you about stuff, you can relate to it and you can understand some of the components of it. And then you don't have to worry about team members pulling the wool over your eye. You're like, no way. I know how long it takes to get 3 bags to a 4-story walk up. Or I delivered, like my drivers have mentioned, yeah, I went to so-and-so's house, and I'll be like, oh yeah, she's a toot. Like, yeah, when she comes to the door, she will talk to you a whole lot about her muffins and all this. And then they look at me and like, wow, like he just doesn't tell me what to do. He's actually done it. Like you become a leader. Like that's what a leader is, not someone who just bosses people around. It makes a big difference.
It does. And yeah. And I was just going to say, like, I don't think that is a contradiction because it's called building a business and you can't just have a business out of nowhere, right? Some people, maybe they have a lot of extra capital and they can just throw the capital into building the business so they don't have to run. And some people, have to build the business on their own back. And you do have to trade that time for a while, but it's always with the goal. If you're trying to build a business, then it's with the goal of scaling up big enough to where you can bring other people on to work in the business so you can work on the business. Like you were mentioning.
And like you said, even if you have the capital, like think of how much less capital you can burn through and allocate it to something else. If you're doing some part of it where it's not a detriment to you building the business, and then you get that firsthand knowledge of it too. At the same time, like now you get to take this capital and put it somewhere else or exponentially grow what you're doing because now you avoid the pitfall of paying someone to do it. And you're like, they kind of got me on that. When I've done it, I know what to look for. So now I can pump even more money into that to grow it even faster. So utilities, I'm definitely going to say that for the first part. The delivery part, get involved yourself in the beginning, save yourself some money, but totally to educate yourself on it. So then you could really build out the service and advertise it well because you know the nuances of it. And then you can highlight like our drivers are this, like our drivers always wear masks, because of COVID age now. Or our drivers carry it up to their apartment. I can give you stories about 150 pounds of laundry. I carried up to a 6th floor walk up and I almost fell down the stairs and got to the top floor of the building and it was totally winded and out of breath. But when she opened the door, I was like, hello, how are you? And then when she went back inside, I was like, I'm about to have a heart attack here. Like, you get to understand those different things. And 2, it puts you in a better place because then you're like, oh, you know what? We should order these type of laundry bags versus these because it's easier for the driver and it's easier for the customer. Like you have a totally different aspect on it. The other pro tip I would give in those 2 categories would be the finances. If you're looking at buying a business and everybody says, yeah, you get the finances, you look at them. True. But in laundromats, I think it's a little different in other small business categories also. And one thing I would say about the finances, and I've heard some horror stories, and I wouldn't say horror stories, but some good learning lessons from people who brought laundromats and they looked at the finances. And I see it all the time when a business brokers see it to me too. And I'm like, they're like cash flow. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't count all the real expenses when they say cash flow a lot of times. And what factors I think gets overlooked is, and you mentioned it earlier, the mom and pop shop, where the owner is not the operator, they're the worker. They're sitting in the store 10 hours a day, whatever, 12 hours a day. They're doing some of the drop-offs or they got a family member in there doing it. And I see that a lot in my community. And I get it. Like they're local stores and they have family members in there. And I know they're not paying them whatever minimum wage is, like whatever agreement they have with them. Like I respect that totally, but you can't factor that into the finances. So when you look at those numbers, the numbers are way more attractive because they're kind of running an unattended store from a financial aspect versus a fully attended store where you got someone on your payroll, whatever hours that store is open, they're a W-2. And you're paying payroll taxes and all that good stuff that comes along with it for the government. And some places might not disclose that to you in their finances. Or even if you ask them, they're like, oh yeah, I'm not there all the time. Like the attendant is here. And they might have a part-time attendant, but the finances don't really reflect that. I highly encourage anyone buying a store to sit in the store. And don't tell the owner you're coming. Choose some random days on the weekends. When they tell you these are our busiest days, these are our slow days, when you're negotiating or you're getting introduced to the potential laundromat to buy, go sit in the store for those days, and don't loiter. Go do laundry there. So if they see you, they're like, or send one of your relatives that they haven't met or they don't know, and have them go in there. I would send my brother to stores all the time. Like we had this spreadsheet. He would love going through the neighborhood and he would do laundry and he would oh, they got 4 types of machines. They at these prices, et cetera, et cetera. And they have these type of signs in there. He's like, I think these signs are awesome. Like we could get some data from that and incorporate a different way to educate customers in the store. We would do that a lot. But I would highly encourage, sit in a store and watch it. How many people come in? Which machines are they using frequently? Especially if it's an older store where they're not using a lot of technology, especially coin stores. You got to get that information firsthand. And unfortunately, a lot of people let me not say a lot, but I'm willing to bet it is. They don't have good record keeping. Listen, when I was running quarters, I was just trying to keep the lights on. I'm just like, dump the machines, get the quarters back into the change dispenser and get people coming through the door. Like our books were okay. They're way better now because we have better systems. We use technology a lot better to track everything. But in the beginning, it was coins in the machine and let's dump them out. But yeah, just investigate the finances, not just what's on paper, but what's physically going on in the store. That would be the other pro tip.
Love that. I think that's really good advice. And I think it's good. I think it's really easy to make mistakes when you're buying your first laundromat. And so gathering that data and, I tell people all the time, hey, like go to Laundromat Resource and download there's a sample pro forma sheet. It's free. You can download it. And what that'll give you is line items of the most common expenses of a laundromat. And just make sure every line item is accounted for because, it's easy for an owner to forget a line item, right? Like a sewer bill or whatever, right? So
you just never know. You
want to make sure it's accounted for. Awesome. Pro tips. Well, hey, listen, Waleed, this has been, I'm going to dare to say this has been an epic episode of the podcast. You have delivered crazy amounts of value. And I know that people are going to love what you had to say. Is there a great way for people to get a hold of you if they have questions or they just want to thank you for coming on the podcast?
Sure. I'm on social. I would say I'm probably most active on Instagram and LinkedIn. And on Instagram, it's just my name, Waleed Cope. You can search by Waleed Cope. Or my Instagram username is Waleed C with 2 E's because I couldn't just get C and somebody else had it. So I was a little pissed. So it's Waleed CEE. On LinkedIn, it's just my full name. Or you can always just go to my website and email me at WaleedCope.com or WaleedC.com. And I'm always open to, questions. Anyone who needs, feedback. I'm no guru. I'm no expert. I'll tell you like it is. All I'm going to do is looking to share my experiences, what's worked for us, and then what hasn't worked. You can ask me something. I can totally tell you if I've done it or not, how it worked out, or if I know people who are doing it. And then everything else is just, my educated guess, because we're all living this journey every day. I've been doing it for years, and I'm going to be totally candid. I'm still trying to figure this thing out every day. Like there is no pinnacle. There is no, secret formula, no secret sauce. That once
I've
you
heard that
discover
before, that was followed by a barrage of secret sauces. So
right,
I'm not sure how much I believe you anymore.
There is no thing once you figure it out in business and you're like you've reached that. And I heard Dave say it when you two were talking that he's always looking at what's next because he likes to push the envelope and try these different things. And I totally agree with that. And I'm always looking to say what's new and like and this could be something in the restaurant industry or in the hotel industry. Could that fit in the laundry industry? And can we keep pushing these envelopes to make things, more aggressive customer service, like make it better for everyone? So I'm always open for feedback, questions, whatever it might be. I'm here.
Love it. And I see if it's not happening now, I see a consulting gig in your future if it's not happening already, because you're being very humble right now, but you have a lot. It's obvious, like you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience, not just in laundromats, but in business in general. And, that's stuff that's really valuable for any kind of entrepreneur, whether they're in the laundromat industry or in any other industry. So seriously, man, I really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing that stuff with us. You didn't have to do that. You just took like 2 hours of your life to hang out with us.
Yeah. I totally blew your time window.
Oh man. There is no time window when I'm having conversations like this. It's seriously, man, it's really awesome. So I really do appreciate you coming on here.
I appreciate you having me. It was a total pleasure. And I'm sure we could probably talk about the laundry business all day, every day. But first of all, you creating this platform and having a place for people to get knowledge in our industry, my hat's off to you. I salute you. It's just, I was on Amazon Googling I was looking for some information, and I went on Amazon through their search, and I was just like, books for, the laundry industry, laundry pickup and delivery, laundromats. And I was like, it's a shame there's only a few out there, and it's kind of the same names that you see over and over, and some, some charlatans and some are the real deal. And what you're doing is making a huge impact. I don't care if you just reach 3 people. That's 3 people who you were able to enlighten and give information to who couldn't get it before, because it's just, I don't know for some reason why it's so secretive in our industry. So listen, I appreciate you having me. My hat's off to what you're doing, and whatever I can do to ever support or help you, grow this and reach more people. I'm only a click away or phone call away, text away. Don't be shy. I'm here.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I'm on your website right now, and I see there's a way for me to contact you. So I know how to get a hold of you now. But seriously, I'm gonna link to everything that we talked about today, and there was a lot to link. So including Instagram account, LinkedIn account. I'll have his email address or his website up there too, in case you guys want to check it out. Check it out on the show notes page. If you're on YouTube, all that information is going to be down below in the description. And Waleed, I have to say 2 things before we hang up. Number 1 is you're totally right. There's a lack of resources. I know a couple of books that are coming out here pretty soon. One, Dave, Laundromat Millionaire Men's, is coming out with his book, which I have been graced with a early copy of, and is awesome. Lucky. Everybody should grab that when it comes out. I think it's coming out in October. Awesome. And then I know I have one coming out here on how to buy your first laundromat for anybody looking to do that. It's coming out soon. But I also think that, there's some more books that need to be written, and, you might need to be thinking about authoring one. So you didn't know you were getting homework coming on this podcast, but I'm putting that in your ear. The second thing is not for you. It's for Jess. And Jess, I just wanted to say that if you made it this far, I want you to just realize that earlier in the podcast, Waleed said that he really only has to be at the laundromat one day, which means a 6-day honeymoon is totally a possibility. So make sure that happens.
It doesn't count the time I spend at our other businesses, which I'm at right now.
Right now. All right, man. Well, again, appreciate it so much. And cannot wait to do more with you. I'm sure we'll be doing more of lots of stuff, webinars, podcasts, who knows, a book. I don't know. Be awesome though.
I'm open to whatever it is. Let's talk about it.
Love it. All right, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Jordan. Take care.
All right. I don't know about you, but I wrote down so many notes from this interview. Like I have a couple pages of notes. I was writing down quotes from Waleed. I was writing down things to link to. I mean, there's just so many good value knowledge bombs dropped and resources and everything. So all that stuff, again, laundromatresource.com/show69, or if you're on YouTube, down in the description down there. But hey, pick one thing. There's so much in this one, so much. Try to pick one thing and put it into action. Remember, action is what's going to get you to success. And man, you got to be taking that action. So don't just listen to Waleed tell you about all the awesome things he's doing and all the awesome things he's learned. Go out and do your own awesome things and learn your own awesome lessons so that I can have you on the podcast and you can share with everybody else. And the whole cycle perpetuates itself. It's great. All right. Pick one thing and go do it. Man, if I had to pick something, I'm just like looking through my notes right now. Man, I mean, one of the things I thought was great that he said, I'm always interested in businesses that aren't sexy. I thought that was great. You know what? The whole section on how to scale, it was like a 20-minute section on how to scale business pickup and delivery. He was dropping all kinds of stuff with the Instagram stuff, the flyers, the mailers, the Google My Business stuff, all that stuff. I mean, that's something that I just need to revisit. It's something that we all need to revisit if you have a business periodically, and just make sure your game is top notch and that you are, bringing it for your customers and letting them know about how awesome you are in your services. So I'm going to be doing that this week. What are you going to be doing? Hey, head over to the forums and let us know over at laundromatresource.com/forums. Let us know what you're doing this week in terms of taking action. All right. We'll see you guys at whatever the next thing is, whether that is the next week's podcast episode on YouTube. If you're coming to one of the weekly webinars that we do, we're on the blog, on the forums, wherever you are. There you are. And hopefully you'll be somewhere near the rest of us, because I love what's going on here and I can't wait to do more of it. We'll see you at the next